A very good evening and welcome to Dublin, to the Aviva Stadium on a cloudy but beautifully mild May evening on a special weekend in the Rugby Union calendar. Tomorrow it's Leinster against La Rochelle to be crowned champions of Europe, but tonight it's about the Challenge Cup, a tournament riddled with intrigue, and Toulon against Glasgow Warriors. So much on the line. Toulon with their rich history in the Champions Cup. Beaten finalists last year, though, looking to go one better. And for Glasgow, it's unprecedented territory, their first ever European final. I'm Chris Jones, delighted to be joined by Paul Grayson, a World Cup winner with England in 2003 and a European Cup winner in Northampton. Two highlights of a stellar career, Paul. And what a weekend this is. We've been lucky enough to do these kind of weekends in Lyon in 2016, Bilbao in 2018, Newcastle in 2019, and here in Dublin, a festival of rugby over the next 24, 48 hours.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's great to be here, Chris. Honour and a privilege, as always. Then you get into the Aviva tonight. The weather is perfect. No rain, nice and mild. Little breeze as we were wandering up to the stadium down by the railway tracks and the Aviva hosed into view. It looks like from the outside, almost like some eco experiment. You expect it to be filled with jungle and dinosaurs and stuff like that. And then you get inside, it's a good old-fashioned rugby pitch that used to be Lansdowne Road. Perfect surface for these two teams tonight. No excuses for letting it all hang out, trying to play as free as you can and doing something special.
And for so many rugby stadiums, they are on the outskirts of a city, on a big complex with loads of acreage around them. But for the Aviva, it's kind of sits amongst all the houses, the railway tracks. It's kind of just about squeezed in here in a really sort of prominent part of Dublin.
And amazingly, in and out of your vision as you walk through the streets. It's a massive stadium. It's low at one end because it's so close to the houses that we can see through the glass cladding all the way around it. But what better place, some of the greatest stadiums in the world, like St James's Park in Newcastle. It's in the city. You walk to it, it's part of it. You feel the vibe. You're only about 10 minutes away from it. So magnificent history at this ground. Great opportunity for these two teams to add to it.
12 minutes till kick-off. Glasgow against Toulon, the Challenge Cup, Rugby Union's Europa League, and a point that we've discussed on the Rugby Union Weekly, with, this kind of split in the Champions Cup, with the same teams regularly getting to the knockout stages. Leinster, some of the more dominant French sides, like a Toulouse, like a La Rochelle. For a lot of teams in Europe and South Africa now, the Challenge Cup is their best chance of silverware, and you would put English Premiership sides in that conversation. Actually, when they look at Leinster, they look at La Rochelle, they don't know if they can compete. So the Challenge Cup seems to have grown in prominence, Paul, because it is a tournament that gives your fans a trip away and a chance to bring silverware home.
Yeah, and under the old format and qualification process, it was either one or the other. You're either in the Champions Cup and you'd come up, you might end up with two of the behemoths in your pool. Bang, 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 3 games, you're done and you're out and there's nothing else. There is no more Europe, just got some weekends off. Whereas the trickle down, if you end up going into the Challenge Cup, is an extra lifeline, but also the European adventure is how teams grow. Teams rarely just drop in at Champions Cup level and are fully formed. You go through the process of building, getting some European experience in the Challenge Cup, and then if you can and you've got the budget, getting on with doing well in the Champions Cup. But having played in this in its old format and coached in it and won the Challenge Cup with Northampton, that is a massive deal in the club's history. It's when Northampton did the double, they won the Premiership and they won the Challenge Cup. It is a double. It's a great tournament, but it gives you genuine European experience if you haven't got the mega bucks of the big boys.
And I want to focus in on both of these two teams in a second, but we can't not talk about the big rugby news of the day, which we all thought would be this match, the Challenge Cup final. But like a bolt from the blue, first Justin Tipuric and then Alan Wynne-Jones, two modern-day greats of the Welsh game. In Jones's case, perhaps the greatest Welsh player of them all, full stop, abruptly announcing their retirement at 33 and 37. Perhaps no great surprise, their careers have been coming to an end, but the timing has taken everyone aback, 4 months away from that World Cup in France.
Yeah, and on a massive weekend for the sport in the Northern Hemisphere. First and foremost, as players, Alan Wynne-Jones, a standout, a history maker, and Justin Tipperick, one of the best back rows of his generation. These days, social media, everyone's got their own kind of production team. Everyone's got a media team. These things are weeks in the making. They might drip feed one or two little bits in and let you know, and then there's kind of a big announcement when you've got clear airspace. It's just you on your own, almost like some kind of royal occasion for Alan Wynne-Jones and Tipperick, for it suddenly just to come out in the middle of a massive weekend where it's like, quickly, let's talk about it now, let's get on with the rugby.
Almost like they want to hide it.
Well, it's like what knee-jerk reaction almost. If you're being cynical, I'm saying, well, where's all the fanfare? And I mean, club players get to announce their own retirement from the club game these days, and everybody gives them that little bit of space. Rachel Hunter recently retired, and she avoided some other announcements and big sporting events that were going on at the moment to have that little bit of space to announce it suddenly out of the blue in the middle of the biggest weekend of European rugby of the season. Smacks of, might have been a little bit of a surprise to some people. Yeah,
definitely a surprise, the timing, and to that point you wonder what conversations have gone on. And it was notable for me that Alan Wynne-Jones referenced conversations with the Welsh management, saying, after speaking to the Welsh coaches, I've decided to retire with immediate effect from international rugby, which obviously leads you to think that Warren Gatland has either said he's not part of his plans, or he's got no guarantee to be part of his plans. Alan Wynne would have been a guarantee at the 2011, the 15, the 19 World Cups, but to be told you're 5th, 6th in the lot pecking order potentially, and the prospect of going to the well for 3 months of a training camp and everything, maybe they've just gone, well, do you know what, this is the right time. But yeah, that surprise, and the way, as you're saying, Paul, it seems to have been a bit buried without fanfare. Just lead yourself to think there's a bit more to it.
Yeah, and that, a good day to bury bad news kind of thing. It's one of those, just like, oh, by the way, Alan Wynne's packed in, and then and move on to the next thing. I mean, it's an enormous event in the history of Welsh rugby. One of the absolute, he's in the icon of icons group. So yeah, listen, if he's happy with his decision and they've had some grown-up discussions and he decided now's the time, and Tipperick the same, fine. Who's to know? It's difficult when you've got a player that vastly experienced, someone like Gatland who's known him since he was a kid virtually, and there's going to come a point where Gatland has to say to him, listen mate, not this time, and his response to that is, well, I'm at the end of my career, that's it.
And I know we've got the game to talk about, but it is such a fascinating topic. You would have been through it as an ex-pro, and it's interesting you mentioned Sarah Hunter, because that's almost the dream way to go out. Yes, she'd have loved to have done it with a World Cup final win, but for Sarah to go out on her home patch in Newcastle, carried off by her teammates with a win, to do it on her terms, that's the way you want to do it as a pro. But very few players, even for me, only someone like Richie McCaw has gone out on his shield, World Cup winning captain.
Yeah.
A lot of players, however much they might want it to be otherwise, it doesn't always pan out the way you might dream, does it? That is the brutal reality of sport at this level.
Yeah, and it's the sport gives and takes, doesn't it? Ben Curry's a prime example. Played a massive game for Sale last week, torn his hamstring, probably going to miss the World Cup, having just got himself back into the mix, having missed out on his early England career by getting injured and letting his brother in. So that's the vagaries of the game that you play. It offers you opportunity. Very few people get to write their own scripts. Somehow people like Dan Carter managed to do it. Got himself fit, won the World Cup final, thanks very much, drop goal to win, etc, etc.
Then a few contracts in France and Japan or whatever, yeah.
Fill your boots. Yeah. He earned it. And sometimes it's just the practicalities of, you might just be too old now.
Yeah, no, it is a fascinating one, because even the very best doesn't always go to plan. Alan Wynne-Jones, look, the dream would have been to win the World Cup and properly go out on his shield, but not to be. And whatever the circumstances of his shock retirement today, can't cloud what has been one of the greatest careers we will ever see in terms of longevity and achievement. 158 caps for Wales, 12 Test matches for the Lions, that's a record in the pro era, 5 Six Nations, 3 Grand Slams. You can go on and on and on. listing the accolades, and similar for Justin Tipuric, also won a host of Six Nations Grand Slams, 3 times a Lions tourist, 93 caps, a great in his own right, and loads more I'm sure will be spoken and written about those two men in the coming days, weeks, months and even years. But for now, we are getting ready for kickoff. 7:55, 5 minutes to the off. Glasgow and Toulon. Glasgow, a huge replica Glasgow shirt being held by some kids to the left of the centre, the halfway line. Toulon on the right. And a word on Glasgow, you mentioned their form in the URC, pipped by Munster in the quarter-final, but it would wrap off a really good season if they were to win tonight. The flip side, and going back to that point that you don't get to write your own scripts, is defeat would leave a lot of Glasgow fans who have made the trip across to Dublin thinking what might have been this season.
Yeah, and I think that for Scottish rugby, promise is always a word that's attached to it. Edinburgh promising, Glasgow promising, Scotland themselves like, we're beating England away. Damn it, we've lost a game we should have won.
Time for a pot, basically, yeah.
And it's like, right, okay, enough with the promise. But the fact that they're here, they're in the final, they've punched themselves out in the URC. The way they speak doesn't sound like hopeful underdogs. It sounds like kind of progressive, aggressive, professional. This is what we're here to do. We're going to empty ourselves in pursuit of silverware, and then we're going to come back and do it again. The least I expect from Glasgow tonight is an absolutely ferocious all-out 80-minute performance.
Yeah, they showed that, didn't they, in the semi-final against Scarlets, winning 35-17. It was in the balance around the half time, but the second half Glasgow were superb, and a lot of it came from the forwards, who line up like this: Jamie Batty, Fraser Brown, Xander Ferguson, the all Scottish international front row. JP Dupree, the South African, and Scott Cummings, another Scottish international, are in the second row. Matt Ferguson, he's having a very big season for club and country. He wears 6. Sione Bailanu, once of Saracens and Wasps, he wears number 7. And Jack Dempsey, the Wallaby Scot, is at number 8. George Horn and Domingo Miotti are 9 and 10. Sione Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones, who combined to devastating effect during the Six Nations, there in the midfield. Carl Steyn captains from the left wing. Sebastian Cancelliere, the Argentinian, on the right wing. And Ollie Smith, the promising young fullback, is at fullback. And Toulon line up like this: Danny Priso, Teddy Bobigny and Beke Gigashvili at tight head. Mathieu Tanguy and Brian Alanissi in the second row. Cornel Dupree, Charles Olivon and Sergio Parise, one of his last games in his stellar career, at number 8. Baptiste Serran and Dan Biggar, we've not mentioned Biggar, talking of Welsh greats, he's at number 10. Duncan Piaua is at 12. Vasaya Vuidravivalu is at 13. And Gavin Villiers, Juita Vinacolo and Cheslin Colby make up the back 3. Decent crowd in. It's not full, we'll get a sellout tomorrow, but 35,000 or so for a Challenge Cup final is an excellent attendance, and both teams are out, Paul. Glasgow in their light blue, Toulon in their black.
Yeah, fantastic turnout. It's amazing how much noise 35,000 people make. It's amazing how much noise about 200 people make. They were going berserk outside, 100 or so from the Warriors against their Toulon counterparts, going backward and forward as the bus is pulled in. They've brought their travelling fans. They're up for it. It's perfectly set up, Christopher.
It is, and though the stands around us aren't full because we're quite high up, you can just you're so close to the fans at the Aviva. When we were doing the Grand Slam game, we were the row behind, and the fans were practically on our shoulders. And I'd see a group of young lads, probably, I don't know, early 20s, Toulon fans, and that's the way to do it, isn't it? Hop on a flight, come and watch your team, have a weekend in Dublin. That's what it's all about.
If you can find a cheap hotel.
Yeah, I don't know where they're staying. That's another matter altogether. I think they will just see how the night unfolds. But they have 2 hours or so to scream their team on to Challenge Cup glory. It's a very interesting Toulon angle with this kind of season ticket subscription, which I'll talk through maybe in a lull in play, because there's always goings on at Toulon. Mourad Boudjel and his Galacticos have given us a lot of entertainment over the last 10-15 years. And Dan Biggar, who kind of fits that Galacticos tag, certainly in profile, he kicks off. Glasgow then take it, set up a ruck, and George Horn clears very ably up to halfway.
Yeah, standard restart. Bigger, deep long left, decent chase. Glasgow take it easily, comfortable box kick from Horn. A la Antoine Dupont gets it somewhere up around the halfway line. That gets everybody into the game, settled down. Toulon get their first chance to launch an attack.
Really good noise in the Aviva. Always with these club matches, such a passionate atmosphere as Babigny throws to Charles Olivon, the captain. So outstanding for France, wasn't he, in that game at Twickenham, scoring a couple of tries. But Glasgow have done well to get in there and spoil that Toulon more, which didn't really get going. So Serran, 28-year-old, 43 France caps, but like every other number 9 that isn't called Antoine Dupont, kind of living in the shadow of the great man somewhat. But a key part of this Toulon machine that have breezed to the final, beating the likes of Lyon and Benetton in the knockout stages. But this, surely their stiffest test of their European campaign. The kick from Serran is claimed by Olivon. Glasgow felt that there was an infringement on Cancelliere, but referee Wayne Barnes, you can hear through the ref mic, was happy. So it's centre field ball for Bigger, who throws a dummy and runs straight into a welcoming party of Glasgow forwards. Now Duncan Paea crashes up in centre field. Here comes Sergio Parise, a guest of ours on the Rugby Union Weekly recently, but he loses it, and Glasgow might have had numbers to the right if they could have shifted it. Here comes Vailanu wearing 7 over the 10-metre line. 6 or 7 metres short of the halfway line. Horn goes to the left and finds Miotti, another Argentinian. Here's Hugh Jones, gets a nice offload away to Kyle Steyn, who shows good strength to go over halfway on this pristine, lush green Aviva Stadium turf. Carried on again, a decent carry as well by Jack Dempsey. Xander Fagerson's in midfield, as is Tuaplot. A good hand. Hugh Jones, brilliant through the legs from Fraser Brown to Cancelliere, who was melted in the tackle by Cornel de Prea. And then it's been turned over by Toulon. What a start to this game. Excellent skill from Glasgow, but Priso and Gigashvili, and there might be numbers for Toulon over on the far side. Vainikolo almost gets round his man, throws it inside. We're coming back for the penalty and a neck roll, all happening, Paul Grayson.
There's about a quarter of an hour's worth of content in that opening play, Chris. Some fantastic stuff. Hugh Jones, who just sometimes when he's on wears a cloak of invisibility in the Scotland centre. Lovely little show and go on the wide outside. And then the ball came all the way back, 60 metres or so to the far side. Flick through the legs pass, which was superbly taken by Cancelliere, who then got absolutely walloped. But if that's your starter for 10, there's going to be some tired bodies in a bit.
There are, and Toulon will look to go quite deep. It's not Bigger who's doing the kicking here. It's Serran wearing 9, and I imagine that's because he's trying to go for broke. Otherwise, you'd imagine Bigger would do it. What's the thinking there? Up to 22.
I think Dan Bigger, they lost their shape. He had a little bit of a show and go, and he got hammered in the tackle. Jack Dempsey put a good shot on him. He's pretty upright. His head rocked a little bit, Dan Bigger there. So probably just catching his breath and composing himself.
He's got to come off for an HIA, and fair play to the medic, because Bigger literally said to the medic, no, I'm playing on. And the medic said to him, no, you're coming off for an HIA. At Higher West, Champions Cup winner with La Rochelle last year, it's on as a replacement.
Yeah, not a bad replacement. Slightly different player to Dan Bigger, but enormous experience and a great talent. Dan Bigger will hope that that's not his last action of the night.
Yeah, he was certainly rattled, and he will go and have an HIA over the next 10 minutes to see whether he can come back on. Bobigny peels away. Serran up to the Georgian. Gigashvili just short of the 22. In centre field, Serran finds Olivon. The French internationals coming in their droves in this star-studded Toulon side. Here's Duncan Paea again, wearing 12. Serran, oh, that's beautiful from Serran. That is world class. A little kick through off his left, and he scored. That is a beautiful individual try. Sheer class, sheer skill. A little grubber through with his left foot, which he gathered himself. And the power and pain, impudent stuff from the 9 Toulon lead.
Absolutely sensational. You mentioned Antoine Dupont before. We'd be going berserk if Dupont did that, because it was in that sort of wheelhouse. Turned back to the left-hand side. It almost seemed like there was nothing on. Don't know whether they've in their analysis in the build-up to this game, have maybe seen that Horn gets quite high in the line quite early, as we get a little replay to see whether he got the ball down. I'm not entirely sure whether he got downward pressure on that. Wayne Barnes gave it. Whether it touched the grass or not, I don't know.
This is very interesting, because Wayne Barnes gave the try, hence why we got very excited, or certainly I did. Right, yeah, I don't think he scored this.
If he hasn't got on the first one, I've got grounding on the second, so just make sure
he has
got all the way
grounding on the second time round. Right, oh, this is very tight. So Ollie Smith has done an amazing job to stop him grounding originally. Wayne Barnes, though, is saying, Paul, that when he rolls, and they're showing it in slow motion, which makes it look like a longer time, obviously, than it was. And then he eventually, does he squeeze it down? Yeah, he just about squeezed it down. So I think this try will be okay.
So Toulon 10 is not returning.
In Wayne we trust. Barnsley said he's seen it. It's a difficult man to question because he gets it right so often.
And Serran slams it through to better his own score. So it's the Serran show so far. Glasgow 0, Toulon 7. And it's just a quality try. Talk us through it.
Absolutely beautiful. Broke back to the left-hand side. The ruck was right in the middle of the field, about 25 metres out. He came back to the left-hand side, looked as if he was going to try and fire the ball wide, and then just dropped it onto his left foot, dribbled it through in behind. There was no cover for Glasgow. Serran showing his experience, but also exceptional flair.
And Wayne Barnes decided that after Smith had basically held him up, he just couldn't hold him up long enough. And yeah, some Glasgow fans may think that it was a little too long that Serran got to dot it down, but he just squeezed the tip of the ball on the line. That's all he needed. And it's Glasgow 0, Toulon 7 after 7. And news just reaching us also that Dan Biggar will not be returning after that early collision. He's failed his head injury assessment. A higher West, as you touched upon, Paul Grayson, more than able replacement, but desperately disappointing for Dan Biggar, who moved to Toulon for occasions like this.
Yeah, that's a real shame. That first passage of play, the ball went to Biggar. He looked to shift it on, and there was really no option for him. So he just had a little pump dummy, ran in and got hit hard and hit high. Not illegally high, but it rocked his head back. You could see that it shook him. A real shame.
Well, are Toulon going to run this after Glasgow lost it? They had a good set-piece opportunity, the Warriors. They're looking for a 50-20. Toulon won't quite happen. Smith is across there using his left boot, kicking it down the tram line. Very good kick actually from Ollie Smith on a tight angle, and Colby goes quickly. Toulon have come to play today. They were a sort of powerful physical machine in their great run in the Johnny Wilkinson days, but already showing signs they want to run it from everywhere. Their kick has put a lot of pressure now on Glasgow, who have it just outside their 22. And, well, Toulon have put such pressure on the Glasgow ruck, but it is there for Horn, who sends it to the left, and Jamie Batty, the loose head, just sets it up. Where are they? 25 metres out from their own goal line. 7 or 8 metres in from the far touchline where we are. And Horn sends it up into still a very beautifully bright, if a little grey, Dublin evening. Taken by Nicolo, the Fijian 15-star and a gold medalist in 2020 as well. Kicked ahead by Toulon. This is going to go dead, so it will be dotted down. Vuadrabavalu. What have you seen there? You went ooh, Paul. But it's an advantage for the penalty to Toulon.
There was advantage for a penalty, but Ollie Smith went to dot the ball down and then put in 2 side steps, one ooh for each, and ran. He was setting off to run from behind his own line when the referee blew his whistle. Now, whether he knew the whistle was coming or not, I don't know, but it looked. He had 104 metres to go to the try line at the other end.
Well, fair play if he didn't know advantage was being played and he thought, yeah, I'm going to take him on.
Or, at the same time, he needs congratulating, because if he's that aware and he can style it out like that, there's a young player who's really got his head's in the game, and he's got a little bit of swagger. I like it.
Well, he does. Age 23, Ollie Smith. There are loads to come from the fullback. Got a bit lucky in that semi-final. He avoided a yellow card and a potential penalty try for a deliberate knock-on, which was a key point in that game, albeit Glasgow did dominate that second half and were worthy winners in the end. So Serran, who is basically doing everything tonight, as the French nines do. It's such a beautiful idiosyncrasy of French rugby, isn't it?
In fairness, if Dan Biggar was on, he wouldn't be kicking goals.
Potentially, but let me have it. Like, you know, in the same way you get cool things in sport, like the way Pakistan produced amazing fast bowlers and India spinners, and you know, there are certain sporting countries that produce one sort of particular type of player, and for France it's goal kicking and swaggering and general types of number 9, and he misses the kick, of course he does, after all that. 7-0 Toulon.
Well, in fairness, probably edge of range, 45-46 metres for Serran. It was an excellent player, a lot of responsibility on him now if he's going to kick the goals, and Ehire West stepping in for Dan Biggar, because
with you now, please.
Make no bones about it, in Dan Biggar they signed a superstar, but a superstar has got a pragmatic edge which is ideal in a final like this.
Yeah, Sergio Parisse, who we're going to hear from at half-time. He's not coming up to join us at half-time from the pitch, but we had a great chat with him on the podcast, reflecting on his career, so well worth hearing from Parisse. He did comment about the difference in style between West and Biggar. Serran kicks ahead, Glasgow inside their own 22. Are they going to run it? Miotti sends it out to Stein. Good strength from the Scottish international, the Glasgow captain. Deep inside their own territory though, Xander Fagerson and his trademark black scrum cap. And he sets a platform for George Horn to clear, asking Stein to get up there. Who else but Baptiste Serran is under it. And a combination of Dempsey and Stein have turned that into a maul, and it will, well, because he was the receiver in the kick, it is going to be a Toulon scrum. Often that would be a scrum to Glasgow, but because he went up to take the kick, the receiver of the kick,
remember, when there's a maul, still come from your side,
receives a bit of leeway there, and it'll be a scrum to Toulon.
Just pick up Wayne Barnes there, a little excellent on-field refereeing / coaching. As soon as he called maul there, players came in from all different kind of directions, which are all penalties by the way, but it was already held up and he was about to blow his whistle, and it's an awareness from Wayne there. He doesn't need to do anything about it, but needs to remind players, because later in the game there might be a maul called in an attacking position, players pile into the sides, he'll penalise someone. So he set his boundaries. He really is an outstanding referee. But Glasgow playing again from their own 22, clearly with the intention of any ball kicked deep to them, they're going to have a look first.
I wonder if Toulon will have a look. They've got a scrum penalty, so you'd imagine they definitely will have a look. West on the gain line, flings it out to Villiers, who kicks, kind of kicked the advantage away, and we will get back for the scrum penalty. And a sign there of Toulon's dominance up front. Glasgow will have to try and get some kind of parity at the set piece. And really, Paul, in this opening 12 and a half minutes, it has been all Toulon. Glasgow had one good set piece opportunity, which they messed up a bit. Rest of the time it's being played in Glasgow territory, and Toulon leads 7-0.
Yeah, and that's the first opportunity from a static set piece scrum to put the squeeze on the Glasgow pack, and they've won their penalty. Ehire West drives the ball deep round the right hand touchline, makes it just about to the Glasgow 22. Interesting from a tactical point of view for Glasgow. They want to stay away from that. Clearly they don't want to scrum. They're happy to compete at the line-out, but they don't want to be knocking the ball on. If you're looking to run the ball and play a lot of rugby, that's very often the outcome if you're loose.
Challenge Cup final live on the BBC. Toulon leading Glasgow by 7 points to nil after 13 and a bit minutes on Radio 5 Sports Extra. Toulon inside the 22 now through Serran, and now the backs carrying in centre field. That's Pa'aua in the middle of the park there for West, who's kind of pumping his arms and then sending it out to Vainakola, who's come off his right wing. So much firepower and quality across this Toulon side. Teddy Barbenier, French international, he drives on. They're only 18 or so metres out now, Toulon. They go again through Cornell Dupré, once of Edinburgh, knows Glasgow very well. Serran to the right. West finds Pa'aua over on the far side, about 7 or 8 metres in from touch. Going through the phases, Toulon, 6 of them, very deliberate, but keeping hold of the ball nicely. They go once more through Teddy Bobigny, the hooker. Gigashvili's in there as well. West out to Villiers, who is floating dangerously and sends a beautiful ball out. Here is Gavin Villiers. It was Colby who would come up from fullback to find Villiers. Now Colby from Villiers' pass, but Glasgow have got in there, and they may, Paul, have turned this over. Crucial turnover from the Warriors.
Yeah, the ball floated over the top, wearing identical headgear, Villiers and Cheslin Colby. They both move pretty quick, so excuse us if we get them the wrong way round every now and again. But Colby drifted in, put the ball over to Villiers. Glasgow looked comfortable actually in the wide channels, competed at the ruck, forced the knock on, moved it a couple of phases. Bailano at 7, carried strongly in a good box kick clearance, but Toulon comfortable in possession.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of Toulon possession, hasn't it? And when you've never played in a big European final like Glasgow haven't, of course these players are used to the big occasion. They would have, so many of them played for Scotland at this very stadium in huge Six Nations games. So I would never say that the occasion was overawing them, but they just don't want Toulon to get any kind of head of steam up. Serran flings it to Cornel Dupré in centre field. He's tackled, but not before making a few metres. They come round the corner again. The mighty Charles Ollivon driving. It's quick ball, and Serran sniping, and he's off again. This is brilliant from Serran, and he just about got it away to his forwards, but it wasn't knocked on. Play on, says Wayne Barnes. Villiers is now stepping and offloading. Backwards again is the call from Barnes. Gigashvili, great work from the Georgian tight head. This time it is knocked on by Tanguy, and Glasgow do survive, but they've got to watch out for Serran. He might be one of Antoine Dupont's understudies, but a world-class player in his own right, and his snipe almost got behind Glasgow. Back it comes to the Warriors, who clear their lines, but it is going to be another set-piece opportunity to Toulon, about 25 metres out.
Yeah, they've got to work out a way of getting themselves down the field, Glasgow, and they've also got to work out a way of just tightening up around the base of the ruck, because unscheduled carry again from Serran. He was looking for runners off his right, nobody came, so he held onto the ball, stepped back to the inside. The Glasgow defenders just with a little overslide, assumed he was going to get rid of the ball and started to drop underneath in defence, which gave him another clear line break. Taking on water at the moment, Glasgow.
Bobigny prepares to throw just outside the 22. It's a looping one to the tail. Parise gets up to bat it back. It's not clean, but it is still in Toulon possession. We've said that a lot in the opening quarter of an hour on Sports Extra, live in Dublin. Serran, big carry. Ollivon, he is everywhere. Charles Ollivon, and so is this man, Gabin Villiers, who's making hay about 15 metres in from the touchline. They're working the right-hand side. Parise comes on a mazy run and sets it up to within about 13-14 metres. Ollivon again, out the back it goes to West. Wide ball to Colby, who bets a little kick through just on his left boot, and it trickles out of play. And a difficult one this. They are kind of matching up well in defence, Glasgow, but it's plenty of pressure from Toulon and their big runners getting into the game.
Yes, that's right, and they're matching it well in the middle of the field. Glasgow, some really good hits from their front rowers, but it only takes Villiers to drift in off his wing and find Jamie Batty, one of those front rowers who just got up from a previous hit. You get a winger against a prop or a hooker in the middle of the pitch, then you get your clean line break and a score.
Oh, Fraser Brown almost overthrew, and Bobigny is potentially onto that. No, it's been knocked on, or it's been knocked on by Glasgow. It's on Toulon possession. They're only 3 metres out. This could be curtains for Glasgow. Parise's under the post. Who else? Sergio Parise, and he smashes the ball into the crowd, Jason Robinson style. The great Italian, who's spoken about ending his career with a trophy, ending on a high. He's scored a try that will put Toulon 40-0 up, and Glasgow are staring down the barrel already.
And there's a perfect example. They've done defensive set after defensive set, eventually managed to force Toulon into touch, and then you get a tired throw from Fraser Brown, a tired looking lift at the back of the line out, so there's the overthrow, there's the mistake. 2 passes from Toulon. Parise was never going to offload that, drove his legs. You see the emotion once he scores, back to his feet, puts his fist on the ball, almost knocked it out the stadium.
Yeah, shades of Jason Robinson in Sydney when he scored, and so much adrenaline coursing through his body, almost battered it into Manly, didn't he?
A lot of fast twitching, Jason.
Well, that was the emotion of a man who knows his stellar career is coming to an end, and he wants to finish it with a trophy, and it is all looking very good so far for the French side. We've not played 20 minutes, and it's Glasgow 0, Toulon 14. And what do you do if you're Glasgow now? What are the first couple of priorities to get back into this cup final?
Well, we're standing here watching Glasgow play from right to left, and you and I have never had to turn to our right to watch any of the game. It's all happened to the left of us. So Glasgow get themselves somehow up the field in possession of the ball. 14-0, that's not the end of the world. Yes, Toulon have been disrupted. They've got one less card to play in substitution with Dan Bigger going off as a permanent HIA replacement. So they know that Toulon's plan is not going to be flawless because they've had one of their replacements taken away. They need to get on the ball. They need to be on it for a while.
Well, Serran's having a brilliant game because his clearance is gone 30-odd metres, and Ollie Smith does well to step past a couple of Toulon chasers. Now they work a little bit of possession and get it to the right-hand side, and Cancelliere, he kicks through. It's Horn onto it. George Horn kicks ahead himself. Was he checked late? Wayne Barnes says no, and it will be a goal line dropout. Much better from Glasgow. Working Cancelliere down the right, and George Horn almost onto it.
Lovely from Smith. Great footwork. Took on Parise, got round him, and then looked after the ball. Horn turned immediately back down the blind side because Smith had worked his way maybe 15 or 20 metres in field, and a great ball from Miliotti to the outside. Little inside grubber, ongoing volley. I don't know whether there was a slight collision with Colbay after that, but it's a repeat attacking set. The ball was kicked into the in-goal area. Downward pressure by Toulon, so Glasgow will get the ball back and they'll be in Toulon's half for a second time.
Can they score next, Glasgow, and work their way back into this Challenge Cup final? They trail by 14-0. We've just gone past the 20-minute mark, and now where the head of steam is Jack Dempsey, not far from the 22. Good quick ball for George Horn. Attacking up the back, Carl Staines off his wing. Good defence coming in by Toulon, but still in Glasgow. Look at that power from Toulon. Huge counter-ruck from the French side. They're going to get a penalty, and Glasgow can't afford this. They can't afford to be bossed in the contact. Parise's pumped. The Toulon forwards are pumped. Priso's pumped. And they get a penalty, Toulon, and they'll go back into Glasgow territory. And once again, we're going to be looking to our left-hand side.
Stein had to let that ball go. Set play had come in from the left wing. 100% certain whether it was Cornel Dupré jumped out of the line. He'd spotted him coming. They were in business if Stein had moved the ball on, but desperate to get into the game, the skipper, and have a run. He's tried to get outside him. Everybody else was running away from him at that point, so they couldn't recover to get into the breakdown quick enough. Recognised by Toulon. 3 or 4 players pile in, counter-up, get over the top of the ball, and then you're dead in the water.
Just short of the 22, the kick from West. 2 tries for Toulon, scored by Serran and Parise. Baptiste Serran has run the show. Serge Parise at the age of 39 going under the post. Free kick Glasgow, they needed that. Bobigny delayed his throw in the line out too long. Wayne Barnes hot on it, and Glasgow, what do you do here if you're wearing 10 for the Warriors? Do you send it back for a line out to Toulon? Are they going to scrum actually, Glasgow? That's an interesting call, deep in their own half as they are.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Then maybe they feel that the penalty that we saw from the first scrimmage was just them settling down, and they don't feel massively under threat. They are just 15 metres in from the right-hand touchline, 25 metres or so from their own line. There's plenty of real estate out to the left to go and play into. Obviously, Toulon have to cover the backfield, so they might go for an early strike here, get it to the number 8's feet and play away quickly, explore the wide spaces and then put a kick deep. But a clean exit would be perfect from here, having the advantage given back to them by the miscommunication from Toulon.
Scrum just outside their own 22. Are Glasgow going to go their scrums under pressure though? It's wheeled around. Horn is being scragged by Serran. He just about manages to keep possession for Glasgow, but choosing to scrum when already it looks like their scrum is creaking. It's a brave move. It's not quite paid off for Glasgow because Horn's box kick is not going to be as easy to manage as if a free kick. So just a strange decision to go for that scrum. It's not quite paid off. Parise is under Horn's kick, and it's Toulon possession. 40-odd metres out from the Glasgow line. 14-0 to the red and black of Toulon. Priso carries over the 10-metre line. Therefore, Serran, he looks to the right, then to the left, then goes to the right again. He kicks himself, actually, and he goes out on the full, so it'll be a line out to Glasgow.
There you go. There's 3 mistakes from Toulon that have, when they've been in decent positions, they've handed the ball straight back to Glasgow, which is which is just fine by the Warriors because they haven't had to do anything to get the ball back. They've not had to go through a dozen phases and then get a set piece perfectly on point to get out of their own half. It's been given back in one phase twice by Toulon. They've really got to take advantage of that now and promote themselves up the field.
They can't get their line out right though. Brown is overthrown again, and Olivon, who else is onto it? It's good quick ball for Serran. There might be numbers out here. West over to the far side. Oh, great straight and coming in by Bui Dravabalu. He's almost in. He's about a metre or two short. Picked up by Paeua. He's just short of the try line. They couldn't be much closer. Toulon. Serran dummies, and he walks in. Third Toulon try, and this is looking bleak for the Warriors.
And it's the same script, isn't it? Pressure relieved by a Toulon mistake. Get your darts right, throw the ball in, win the ball, get away from your own try line. Another overthrow. Charles Olivon scoops up the crumbs just at the back of the line out. A strong carry, and then Toulon into their attacking play. I thought they were running laterally across the field until Vinokola hit the straight line. I beg your pardon.
Yeah,
Bui Dravabalu hit
carry.
the straight line as the defence was sliding, and again the defence around the base of the ruck as Serran throws the dummy. Everyone's going defending where they think the ball might end up. It's a tiny little number 9 who still got hold of it and scored.
It's a great line from Bui Dravabalu. Just as you say, Paul Grayson drifting, and then bang, he cut an angle and cut Glasgow in half, and then Serran. You don't often see 9s just walking like that. There was no kind of fringe. His first try was brilliant individual skill. That was just a tiny little show, and he dotted down unopposed. It's 19-0. We wonder whether Glasgow needed to score next at 14-0. And if they've not got a line out or a scrum, then this one could be over already.
Well, they've gone to the back twice, they've overthrown twice, and they've conceded 2 tries from it.
Well, Serran's taking his time with this. His trickiest kick of the night from a conversion point of view. He's missed a penalty. Lovely strike, straight through. 21-0 to Toulon. And when you're playing in your first ever European final, I know it's technically not Europe with the South Africans involved, but forgive us if we still refer to it as European final. It's kind of stuff of nightmares, isn't it, for the Warriors to be 21-0 down against a side that is just so full of quality as Toulon are, and Serran is just running amok. He took that and under real pressure managed to clear almost up to the 10-metre line.
Again, it's not all that long ago when France thought they'd discovered their kind of generational 9 and 10 in Baptiste Serran and Mathieu Jalibert. Everyone was saying that actually you've got 2 football in 9 and 10. They're going to be in position for the next 10 years. Then turns Antoine Dupont and Romain Ntamack to oust them. But he's at 40-some caps, Serran. He's a proper player.
George Horn to Dempsey. Finally a little bit of ball and a little bit of territory for the Warriors. In between the 10-metre line and the 22. Out the back they come. Tue Pelotu. Ollie Smith tackled by Parise. Not a million miles away from the 22. Now the Warriors in their light blue. Little ball on. Finds Jamie Batty from JP Dupree, the massive man in the second row. Carried straight and hard by Matt Fagerson. Good quick ball for Horn. Lovely service as well to Miotti. Hugh Jones in a little bit of space. They've got an advantage for the offside. Better this from Glasgow. Their best passage in the cup final. Out the back from Batty. Miotti. Cummings to Ipilotu, shovels it out to Ollie Smith, and they do go into that 22. Parise, one of the try scorers, doing the tackling. Lightning fast ball. It's great service from the diminutive 9, George Horn. There he is again. He flips it to his left. Batty's a little bit isolated, but his carry is solid and the ball is quick for George Horn again. Now they're slightly short of numbers and options, but Miotti is dancing and they're edging closer here. The Glasgow Warriors trailing as they do by 21-0. Dupree, JP Dupree, former Sale lock, sets it up. Fraser Brown, 7 or 8 metres by Glasgow, who now come to the right. They lose it through Vailanu. But it will be a penalty to Glasgow. A decision to make. 3 points doesn't do a great deal at 21-0, but they had opportunities in that passage of play to register a try.
Much better, some straight hard running. Fagerson and Batty in the forwards. Smith in the wide channels, straightening up challenging defenders. They've got to go for the corner from here. Miotti hopefully get it somewhere near. We know the difference between a 5-metre line out and a 10-metre line out is
Attacking blue line out, yeah.
significantly more difficult to score the further you are out. He's about 6 metres out. Good kick from the middle of the field.
Line's yours, Lily.
It just shows if they hold on to the ball. They've forced a midfield infringement from Toulon. They had a couple of half breaks. Plenty of, if they're accurate, there's plenty of content and decent shape.
And Toulon's line speed wasn't oppressively quick, was it? There were opportunities. They've gone to the front. A little peel move now from the line out. Horn out to Ipilotu, who carries almost to within 5 metres now for Glasgow. They go once more through Xander Fagerson. Half-hour mark on Sports Extra. Jamie Batty helped out by Matt Fagerson and JP Dupree. There for George Horn. Here is Jack Dempsey, the Scottish international, under the crossbar, shadow of the Toulon post. Hugh Jones, can he get it away or will he keep it? He sets it up just short of the 5-metre line. A posse of clearers give a good platform for Horn, and then Brown loses it. Can't cough the ball up like that when you're deep in opposition territory. Parise to West, from under his own crossbar, he clears his lines. Very good kick from there at Higher West, and Glasgow will have to do it all over again from around about 30 metres out now.
And that's the key, Chris. Do it all over again. Okay, ended up in a knock-on, but what did it come from? It came from a sustained period of decent, accurate, physical attacking rugby. The line-out move that they'd got specially geared up for the final didn't really work. They held the ball for another 4 or 5 phases. Now they get to do it again from 30 metres out. Rinse and repeat.
Brutal, but that's what happens at this level when you're playing a team like Toulon. 3 times Champions Cup winners in 13, 14 and 15. Good Glasgow maul though. Brown was on the money with his throw, making up for that knock-on, and they've gone about 10 metres. The light blue maul of Glasgow up to the 22. Have they got the possession still? Yes, they do. Scott Cummins is in there, and they're driving on nicely into the 22. They go. This is a very good Glasgow maul that now has stopped and is implored to use it as Horn. Now Glasgow on this wide Aviva Stadium turf, but the ball from Jones goes to grass rather than to a teammate. Stain has to tidy up. There seems to be a lot of space out here, Paul. I mean, I know it's a big surface. I don't know if there are some tired bodies, but maybe it's because we're so high up that we can see a lot of space. But there seems to be numbers for both sides. Can Tuipulotu get it through? He kicks for Jones. Jones, Colby steps out of play. So Jones just put enough pressure on. Glasgow have the line out now inside the 22.
Yeah, and that was all good. There was one loose pass which set them back, but they recovered.
What's up?
As we see Tuipulotu just run the ball through off his foot. And take a good shot from Payayua. And it was, as the kick went through, jeez, he hit him hard. He's come off second best. Hopefully he's okay. But it finished with a decent kick from Tuipulotu. They forced Cheslin Colby into touch. They get possession back. Yes, they're at 30 metres out again.
Okay.
But the next break could be a break that leads to the try. It's layering pressure on pressure and forcing Toulon into long periods of defensive effort, which saps the legs. Evens the scrum contest up a little bit.
Maybe a little bit around.
It's so much harder to defend than it is to attack.
Still so light, isn't it? I know we're only a month away from the longest day of the year, but it's pretty cool to be doing a game at gone 8:30, and it's barely any need for these floodlights.
No, t-shirt and a jumper's enough as well.
Yeah.
Lovely evening.
That's the great thing about this weekend, often played in decent weather. But Glasgow, yeah, it's getting to the point where they need to get something from this passage of play, and their line out is just not good enough. They've coughed up a third one, Paul.
That's three for three when they've thrown to the back that they've lost.
Yeah, and now they have got numbers potentially. Toulon Vinacolo out to the ever dangerous Fudrabivalu, who kicks ahead. And has that gone out on the full? It has, right. So it could have been worse. Glasgow could have found themselves back on their own 22. Instead, they'll throw into the line out between the 10-metre line and the 22. But their line out is under such pressure, it's creaking, that any set piece they get, they're not making the most of it.
No, they've 2 overthrows have led to tries. Another one there that's taken the pressure off. They ran a convoluted peel when they had a 5-metre line out, and you thought for all money, just give it a go for a bit of heave, try and get yourselves over the line. So there's 4 that have they've cost them 2 tries, certainly cost them field position. Now they've gone to the middle and they've won it.
Yeah, fortunately for Glasgow, Toulon didn't really compete, so they took a clean catch in the middle of the line-out. Brown flips it to Horn, Tui Pelotu, advantage being played by referee Wayne Barnes. This midfield axis hasn't really clicked, so dangerous for Scotland, but that is with the genius of Finn Russell inside Tui Pelotu and Jones. They've got another advantage here, Glasgow. What can they do with something of a free hit? Horn wait to dummy a kick, then sent it out to Dempsey, gets a nice offload away to Fagerson, who brushed aside Danny Priso. Almost up to the 22 of Glasgow. Horn, snappy pass to the left. Miotti shoveled it out to Xander Fagerson. Fagerson in his scrum cap, the British and Irish Lions prop. There for Dupree. On it goes to Dempsey, who reaches the 22. No advantage. Good clean steal by Babigny. And we're going back for the penalty to Glasgow in the middle of the park, 25 metres out.
Good half break again from Glasgow. Amazing athleticism from Babigny, the Toulon hooker, to get into position behind the ball and get his hands on it to bring to an end that attack. Penalty advantage. And we go again. It's best part of 34 minutes played, 6 minutes to go to half time. And they're in the right place. This is what, 5th go at it now for Glasgow. Not the end of the world that they haven't scored, but they need something before half time. They can't leave here without any points, preferably 7.
Prolonged spell of pressure has yielded nothing. They need, as Paul Grayson saying, points are a priority now for Glasgow, pretty much a necessity as we tick towards half-time. Brown is at a torrid night at the line-out, looks to throw in, and he just about finds his man in Dupree. And because Toulon competed, they may have an opportunity to drive through here, Glasgow. They're peeling round the blind side. They're only a couple of metres short, if that. Stain comes into play at scrum half with Horn preoccupied. Therefore, Xander Fagerson. Dempsey and Dupree pick and go round the corner. 2 to 3 metres out are the Warriors. Dempsey again drives. Brown is there clearing, helped out by Batty. Again they pick it and they've lost that, have they? No. Wayne Barnes was happy. It's been picked up. So Glasgow's skills letting them down deep in the Toulon 22, and the body language from Toulon. Serran is going around slapping the back of everyone who contributed to that goal line stand. Good body language from Toulon, but demoralising for Glasgow, who again come away with nothing.
Babigny celebrating like he scored a try there. Double fist pump as the knock-on came. All hands on deck for Toulon. They were hitting hard and low in those close quarter contacts as the Warriors tried to get their pick and go going. Post maul. They're doing all the right things, Glasgow, but the end product is just not accurate enough.
Thank you.
As much as Toulon have given them 2 or 3 easy ways back into the game with first phase mistakes, there's a lot of hard work gone in from Glasgow in this last 15 minutes that has finished with a silly knock-on or a poor pass or a ball that comes to nothing or an overthrown line out. That's the bit you don't want to rinse and repeat.
How tough is that for a player?
Look, there's only so many times you can tell yourself it's coming,
Yeah.
God, we've done it again. You get that sinking feeling. You've got to wipe that. You've got to wipe that. Quick check of the clock. 5 minutes till half time. Massive scrum here. They can't afford to concede a penalty here and give Toulon an easy way out. Make the kick as much pressure as possible. Make it a bad kick. Get the ball back. Do it again.
Serran feeds. The scrum goes down. Use it, says Wayne Barnes to Baptiste Serran. It's a messy old scrum and he wants to reset Barnes.
That's right.
Experience there from Serran.
Just a bit of movement.
Barnes told him to use it. Serran kind of walked back, almost kicked it back into the scrum and said, I'm not using that, sir, give me another scrum.
No, you're not using that, Phil. Yeah, not for me, thanks. 21-0 to Toulon if you're just joining us on Radio 5 Sports Extra. Serran twice and Parise.
Control on
3 tries, all converted by Serran. Dan Bigger, sadly for him, went off with a head injury right at the start of the game, but Ahia West, the ex-La Rochelle man, has come on at number 10, a man who won the big one, the Champions Cup last year with La Rochelle, and we will have commentary here on Sports Extra tomorrow from 4:30 of La Rochelle against Leinster. And being at the press conference today, listening to Leo Cullen and James Ryan, Gary Ringrose, but especially Ronan O'Gara, he really did get a sense of how big this game is.
In his red hoodie.
He was in a red hoodie. He was in a slightly mischievous mood because he started by saying, I want to respect French custom by speaking in French, but then obviously he was asked loads of questions in English, and he spoke plenty in English. And yeah, it was a compelling listen, as it often is, from O'Gara. I think one of the most fascinating angles of this is, you know, we paint O'Gara as a Munsterman coming back to Ireland, but he's so worldly now with his experience in New Zealand, La Rochelle, Racing 92, that if he was a player of Munster, he's a coach of the world.
Just yeah, we're talking before about writing your own script, weren't we?
Yeah.
Alvin Jones and people like that. He's certainly writing his own coaching journey at the moment.
Well, they go down the right-hand side. Vinokola almost gets away, hurls it back inside to Parise, who drops it. So Toulon almost got away there down the right-hand flank, but instead it'll be a scrum to Glasgow. And they have had, I would say, as much as 10, 12 minutes or so camped in the Toulon half. They've got to take some comfort from that. Parise just seeing a replay of his knock-on from the ball inside from Vinokola. The Olympic gold medalist.
He moves well, Vinokola, doesn't he? Easy skills, genuine pace, and just flips that offload back inside. Jack Dempsey did well to just get his hand in to put Parise off, and that's what they wanted. As we just said, Chris, one more chance before half-time as the clock ticks towards 38 minutes. A scrum 5 metres in from the left-hand touchline on the Toulon 22. 65 metres of open field to play into, providing they can win the ball.
Well, it's the kind of set piece that Scotland would lick their lips with Finn Russell at 10. What can Glasgow, with a lot of the same personnel, do? Well, Tuipulotu to Jones, and that was knocked on. So it just is not happening at all for Glasgow Warriors. Try as they might, the accuracy just isn't there, both in open play and in the set piece.
1:45.
No, much as the assistant referee on the far side was calling in for a penalty at the scrum. When Barnes said no thanks, they went to the midfield. Tuipulotu to the line. Jones running hard off his shoulder. Took a slight little bump from Vui Dravuvalu, but not enough to be deemed a penalty. And after all that effort, there's only a minute till half time now. And this is so important. The last 5 times I've spoken, I've talked about the clock. These are the minutes where you get a chance to get a foothold back in the game if you're in the right position of the pitch. Last 5 minutes of the half, go into half time, buoyed by the fact, all right, 21-7, but it's 21-7, it's not 21-0. You've dominated the last 15 minutes. You've got a sort of a roadmap to claw your way back in. But if they don't get anything and go into half time 21-0 down, it feels like a lot of effort for nothing.
Very good Glasgow scrum. They get a penalty. Massive effort from the Glasgow forwards. We've lamented their set piece, but that was excellent. They went to work, and George Horn's gone quickly because Toulon have been marched. Because I think Serran, most likely the guilty party for hurling it away. Wayne Barnes has marched Toulon, so Glasgow will get another chance right at the end of this half, which only has 20 seconds to run, and they need to make a really firm decision. Do they scrum, or do they just take the points for something with 10 seconds to go?
Nah, scrum, go for it.
That's the call from Paul Grayson. And Toulon, maybe they took their foot off the gas, or maybe Glasgow just got everything right. And actually Serran's feet got a little bit caught at the feet of his prop, and Glasgow drove over, got the penalty. Clock is dead. So if Glasgow are going to come away with the try on the stroke of half time, they can't knock on, which has been kind of the theme of their half. Every time they've had a good bit of set piece ball, a good bit of territory, they've made a mistake. It's in centre field, this scrum. It is slap bang between the 22 and the try line, and they've got options right and left.
And you know,
Give yourself spacing.
not quite as good as a fact, but you know just about for certain that Wayne Barnes will see this ball played away unless there's a clear and obvious penalty in the scrum and Toulon destroy Glasgow. Wayne Barnes will want to see this played away.
Crouch.
Here we go then. Glasgow 0, Toulon 21. But Glasgow can, to some extent, salvage a very disappointing half if they can get something from this pressure. It's a horrible scrum that's twisting terribly, and it's going to be a free kick to Glasgow, and I imagine they'll scrum again because they've had a little bit of joy the last few.
Well, Danny Priso on the loose head for Toulon, just stepping out slightly on the engagement. Only a free kick from Wayne Barnes this time. But that step out and kind of diagonal drive unsettles the scrum, and it means that George Horn has got messy ball at the back to play with. If they can keep that solid, you couldn't really have any better place to attack from, right in the middle of the field, right under the post, 15 metres out. Yes, Toulon will be split 3 and 3 in defence, plus the scrum half will go one way, but nobody will be in behind. All sorts of options on if they can win the ball for Glasgow.
Horn prepares to feed the scrum. As Paul Grayson is saying, options left and right. They come to the right. Horn trying to get away from Saran. Out the back to Miotti, who kicks through. Well, it's going to be dotted down, and that'll be half-time. So, yeah, a disappointing end to a disappointing half for Glasgow. Kicking the ball away in that situation, fraught with danger with the clock dead. But credit has to go to Toulon, who have been ruthless in attack and have managed to keep Glasgow out. 21-0 half-time. Serran twice, although Serran looks like he's been badly injured as well. You're just pointing at the screen. So it might be that Toulon are playing their second half with no 9, or without their starting 9 and their starting 10, with Dan Biggar already off permanently because of concussion. Serran is not coming back on. You know, that's a serious injury for the diminutive. But superb. What a game he's had, the little man at number 9. But talk us through the first half. Paul Grayson, Glasgow 0, Toulon 21.
Yeah, and it's almost like that. The Warriors' choice of weapon is a great big swinging broadsword, and there's no subtlety to what they're doing in attack, and they can't quite find an edge. Whereas Toulon have had 3 opportunities, and they've just shown that they're using a different weapon altogether. Serran, lovely first try where he broke to the left of the ruck, put the ball through off his left foot, gathered himself, and had the physicality to get over the line and dot down. And then straight from a Glasgow mistake, an overthrow, Olivon quickly onto it, round the corner to Parise, who scored under the post. And then the guile and the strength of Vui Dravivalu straightening the line in open play, getting them on the front foot, and then Serran skipping in untouched. 3 chances offered, 3 chances taken. Conversely, Glasgow, we implored them to get into Toulon's half, and they did that for an extended period of time. But the broadsword is blunt at the moment.
So Serran with the game's first try, it was an absolute beauty. We're just seeing a replay of what do you think he's done? He tackled opposite number Horn, that looks fine, and then kind of stepped on and then sort of pulled up without anyone around him. Is that a
Calfy, ankly, Achillesy?
Yeah, Achillesy, yeah. It looks really painful. He made the tackle on Horn, and then Miotti's kick through didn't come to anything.
Well, actually, just clutching towards the back of his knee as he got up. As we see the replay.
So like extended it or something?
I'm not sure whether that might be kind of lower end of his hamstring, which looks heavily strapped. Actually, the first time we've seen him close up on the big screen, he's got a heavy strapping under his cycling shorts on that right kind of lower hamstring area. So that might be a pre-existing injury that he's brought into the game. And in that moment of extra effort, he's just tweaked it. Hand on his head as we see the replay. He knows he's done for the night.
Well, he knows he's done for the night, and if it's serious, you think World Cup at this time, don't you? Late May, warm-ups in August, the tournament in September, and for every hopeful, every time they go down now, that has to be the thought that rushes through their head, as well as the immediate short-term pain of missing out on a second half of cup final.
Yes, absolutely. It's the nature of the game. You can't. I remember Jordan Murphy breaking his leg and they're getting a warm-up game, and a devastating injury, but right before the World Cup when he was on red-hot form, and you feel so bad for him as an individual. It creates an opportunity for somebody else. But what you've got a little bit from here is there is time. And if it's a kind of a soft injury or a tendon injury or tear or something like that, if it's not ripped it off the bone, there's every possibility that he'll be back and in contention.
Well, he scored the first and the third tries. He's been absolutely fantastic as Baptiste Serran. And the second try for Toulon was scored by none other than Sergio Parise, who was our special guest on the Rugby Union Weekly podcast this week. We're going to hear a little bit from Parisa now, and then we'll be back for the second half. We'll be joined by our listeners on Radio 5 Live, so there'll be the odd football update in the second half as the playoffs all take shape across Championship, League 1 and League 2. Amazing stuff last night, wasn't it, the Sheffield Wednesday game. So we'll be updating on the Barnsley game in the second half. But otherwise, rugby all the way until around about 10 o'clock on Sports Extra and on 5 Live. So back with the second half any moment now. But let's hear from Sergio Parisse, his final season and still going at the age of 39. And Ugo Monya asked him what's been driving him to continue playing so late into his 30s.
That is a question that sometimes even my closest friends or even from my family say, you are not tired? There is so much. And obviously I love the game. You can't go in for so long time if you don't love what you do. So I'm obsessed with the rugby. But the key is like when you take your bag and go to the club, say, I'm just going because it's an habit, because I'm doing that since a lot of years, or I'm doing because I love what I go to do.
Yeah, how cool is it, Sergio, to still be playing in these kind of big finals, big events, big weekends at this stage of your career?
Well, for me, it's a joy, it's an opportunity, and it's a privilege. And for me, it's a team. It's a team sport. It's not about individuals. I'm trying to, as I say in Toulon, to help the team to perform. Sometimes playing games, sometimes preparing the team to playing games, trying to help the people and inspire the people around me, because that is something of the objective of a leader of the team, to try to help the people around you.
Sergio, were you always a leader?
I don't know if it's something that you have, or something that you learn and training. I be captain of the Italian team really when I was 24 years old, and I have opportunity to play around with people around me who have more experience than me and help me a lot in my, in my leadership as well. It's something that is, for me, it's natural. It's not like I'm playing a role. I'm not here to say I want to be a leader, I want to be a captain. There's no way, it's no point. I think it's something that it must be natural. It must be, nothing to be imposed by the coach or whatever. And just I want to enjoy and trying to, give to the team and trying to, making grow people around you. Just my way to, to living in a group of rugby.
How do you reflect on your Italy career as you look back? Is it a huge amount of pride about what you did so many times, captaining the team on multiple occasions like you have?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really proud. I'm really, happy to represent my country a lot of time. Happy to have the opportunity to play a massive tournament of the Six Nations, a lot of time, plenty of time, playing 5 World Cups with my country. And have the opportunity to play against the best players, the best nation around the world was definitely awesome. And I'm really proud about it. And so, sometimes in life you must be, grateful for all the things that you achieve. I'm a competitor. I want every time I want more from everything. So this mindset for me never is going to change, even one day when I'm going to start coaching. But for the Italian team, with or without me, I'm going to be every time I wish the best of the team and support the team, because there's no way to do it in a different way.
Did you say 5 World Cups? 5?
Honestly.
Yeah.
What 03, 7, 11, 15? Oh my God.
Honestly, when you were saying it,
that's amazing.
Jonesy, I had the same reaction, because the headline is 5 World Cups, and then you think, spanning over 20 years, like, mate, my career was 14 years, and people are like, that's longevity. How about go to 5 World Cups and still be playing? We can't skate over detail like that. That is remarkable. That is absolutely extraordinary.
Thanks to how I say, I'm really proud about it. So even have a little chance to play a 6th World Cup would be unbelievable. Not just for for my country as well. I every time that I think in the end of my career, because when you arrive at this time of 32 years old, 31, you start thinking a little bit more into the end of your career, so other things. If you agree with me, but and I start thinking, well, what would be the best scenario, or the how I would like to finish my career, and I never expect to continue to play at 39 years old. I continue to play in a good club, and that's for me is the best way to finish my career. And whatever happened in the future, whatever happened, I'm just really, really grateful for all the things that I have the chance to live.
Who has been the best player you've ever played against?
Oh, what a question! I played against so many. Looks, one guy that for me was a king was Juan Hernandez from Argentina. I played with him.
El Mago.
In Stade Francais, El Mago. Wow. Very, very good player. Can tackle hard, have a good pass. Kicking was great. Vision of the game, incredible. Such an humble guy, and he's definitely one of the best for me.
Who's the best player you played with?
Well, Juan I play with Juan in Stade Francais, and then I'm playing with a guy. It's called Brendan Williams. He played in Treviso. Small guy, Australian, recent guy. Incredible. He was the guy who spent all nights out in Treviso, every time out, arrive late on the meetings, arrive late for the training, sometimes miss training. But mate, I remember, I tell you the story. With Treviso, we going to play in Dublin against Leinster, who at the time was the Heineken Cup, and we play with Treviso. We go in there, and Brendan Williams during a week, mate, just one training, be off. And we know it because Treviso is a little city, be off like all days. Arrive late the day we leaving from Italy with the flight. He arrived late, like smelling alcohol, and we go. Mate, he put the boots going to the field. I remember they kick long, and I say the Leinster line arriving like perfectly without no way that you. And like Brendan Williams, like today passing between like Darcy and O'Driscoll and scoring a solo try for 60 meters. That is something that I never saw in my life, but that was a great memory.
That's awesome.
I love the fact in professional rugby there's still space for that just natural talent, regardless of nutrition and recovery.
Exactly.
Favorite stadium?
Best ground. A lot of best ground. Definitely Millennium is something great. The Millennium Stadium, when the roof is closed and it's got nice atmosphere.
Fair play. What's your favourite match you've played in?
Played a lot, but
yeah.
No, I definitely was 2013 beating France in the Stadio Olimpico and the Six Nations. Was a really nice memory because not just because we won that game. I scored a try at the beginning of the game, but was good at how we won that game. We played really good rugby this afternoon against France, and was one of the best games that with Italian jersey be involved in, and a great victory.
One more. Best coach?
Someone that at the time and now is confirmation that I was what I think at the time was Fabien Galtier, who I had at the beginning when I arrived at Stade Francais. I was 21 years old. I arrived in the club. From the personal point of view, is someone really special. But from the rugby point of view, definitely is one of the best for me, the best that I met. And now he's doing great thing with France, which they have a fantastic generation of players. But I think Fabien Galtier have a big responsibility as well for how this France team performed. Yeah.
The great Sergei Parise, our special guest on the Rugby Union Weekly podcast. And if you don't subscribe, what are you waiting for? You can get the pod out every Tuesday morning, but we've got loads of special episodes, bonus episodes, and we'll be podding tomorrow after the Champions Cup finals. The Challenge Cup and the Champions Cup finals both reviewed on a special Rugby Union Weekly podcast that will go out Sunday, and then we'll have a podcast in midweek looking ahead to the Premiership and the URC finals, which take place next weekend. That mouth-watering game at Twickenham between Saracens and Sale, which will be our feature game on 5 Live next Saturday. But loads to come still in the second half of the Challenge Cup before the Champions Cup final tomorrow, but work to do for Glasgow. They trail by 21 points to nil. Parise on the score sheet, the brilliant Serran with 2 tries. But Paul Grayson, is that the little chink of light that maybe Glasgow needed? They obviously don't want to revel in anyone's misfortune, but as Toulon return for the second half, with their kingpin number 9 off, is there perhaps an opportunity for Glasgow, given now Toulon will have their different 9 and 10 to the one that started the game?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, as we mentioned in the first half, Ihaya West, Champions Cup winner with La Rochelle, player of great experience. But Benoit Payot comes off the bench. You'd have to say he's not Baptiste Serran. Serran was playing absolutely beautifully. So that does put some pressure on the reserve number 9. There's a whole 40 minutes to play. They have rung the changes by the looks of it. Toulon, Mathieu Bastereau is on. A forward these days. Always looked like a forward to me.
Well, where is Bastereau coming on? Because there's been a lot of talk about him playing in the forwards. Payot will come on at number 9 for... He can play 10, can't he, Payot? Experienced man, 35 years of age, former Stade of Montpellier. So they're going to miss a lot with Serran. And just trying to see who Bastereau is on for. It might be for Payot at number 12. So Bastereau in kind of his familiar position at number 12, where he won all those French caps. Glasgow restarts us in the second half. Domingo Miotti will be with 5 Live shortly for the whole of the second half as Payot sets it up about 8 metres or so from their own line. Penalty Glasgow, as Payot's first intervention is giving away a penalty, and we've said it all the final 10-12 minutes of that first half. What an opportunity again for Glasgow. They can kick it in the corner with a 5-metre line out.
Yeah, good start. They've picked out the new man. They probably would have kicked it there anyway, but they've given Payot something to do straight from the kick-off. He just delayed, he didn't clear straight away. It was a good chase and tackle, like Toulon did to Glasgow in the first half. They counter-rucked, piled their bodies in, forced the turnover.
Brown to the front, Dupree loses it, and Brown scoops it up, but big counter-ruck coming in. Another advantage, so they do a penalty advantage to a Pelotu. Crossfield from Cancelier, looking for Stein. Can Stein get onto that? Well taken. Cheslin Colby calls the mark, back for the penalty. Again, they can stick it in the corner. But the confidence again in that Glasgow line-out seems to just not be there.
They've gone for the standing line-out that time, where the hooker just bullets it into the front jumper. Second row at the front, who doesn't go into the air, especially just snatch the ball and instantaneously set up a maul. He did all the maul setup, but he forgot to take the ball with him. So as the Glasgow pack were driving over the line, the ball was rolling around on the floor in their haste to try and get the ball back. Toulon off their feet and in at the side of that ruck, spotted by Wayne Barnes, so they get another chance. That's kind of what we said for the last 15 minutes of the first half, wasn't it, Chris?
Absolutely. Again, an incredible attacking opportunity for Glasgow. We'll be with 5 Live listeners very shortly for the whole of the second half, or the second half minus the 1 minute 47 seconds that's been played. Fraser Brown is getting some treatment. They've got Johnny Matthews to come off the bench if need be, but perhaps they didn't want to empty their bench quite yet. Franco Smith and the Glasgow coaches. It's actually Sander Fagerson, isn't it, who is getting some treatment over on the far side as we still wait for the penalty from Glasgow. Thank you very much, Darren. Welcome to the Aviva Stadium. A minute and 47 seconds into this second half. It's a bit of a bleak picture for Glasgow on the scoreboard. Glasgow 0, Toulon 21, but Glasgow, Paul Grayson, have a line out 5 metres out as Miotti just dabs it into the corner. They've had so many opportunities, especially towards the end of the first half. They've got to take one of these, surely. 15
minutes of intense pressure pre-half time. With no result. They've started the second half in exactly the same way, 5 metre line out.
One in the middle of the line out, and they set up the maul to the Glasgow Warriors. They trail 21-0, but what a boost it would be if they can get on the score sheet, especially with Toulon down their starting number 9 and 10. But the maul is splintered and Toulon will get the scrum, and look at that energy from the likes of Charles Olivon and particularly Serge Parise. A word to update our 5 Live listeners, Paul. about what's happened to Dan Biggar and to the brilliant Baptiste Seran. But first, Serge Parise, age 39. This might well be his last game of rugby in a magnificent career. He's scored a try. He looks so pumped to try and end his career with a big trophy.
Yeah, and we've had a view on the cameras into the change rooms pre-game and at half-time. It's been Parise laying down the law in his last game. He had a brilliant first half, opportunist try under the post. He looks absolutely fit as a butcher's dog. He's a Cristiano Ronaldo type of athlete, ageless almost, because he looks after himself so well. And of course he's been around forever.
Yeah, he's in that bracket of rugby goats, isn't he? Serge Parise, one of the preeminent players of his generation. 142 Italy caps, only bettered by the great Alan Wynne-Jones, who dropped that bombshell today that he was retiring from international rugby. So greats leaving the game left, right and centre. But while Alan Wynne-Jones has gone out a bit abruptly, Parise, it looks like, is going to end with a major European trophy, and Toulon win the penalty at the scrum. A Higher West clears his lines, and a Higher West is on because Dan Biggar had that head injury right at the start of the game. So he's barely played at all. West has played practically the whole game so far. And then Seran, the starting 9, who scored 2 tries, the first absolutely magnificent. He went off with the last play of that first half. Payot gone, and he's winging it out into centre field to West, who goes cross field.
Yeah, disruption at 9 and 10. Certainly our Higher West is a European Champions Cup winner with La Rochelle last year. Vastly experienced, very creative player. There wouldn't be much to pick between him and Dan Biggar other than perhaps Biggar's leadership. Another chance for European glory for West.
Well, can Glasgow work anything down the right-hand touchline? George Horn now comes to the open side, finds Dupree, set up on the halfway line. 21-0 to Toulon. We keep saying it, but Glasgow have to score next. That's so deep and telegraphed from Mayotte, but Tuipulotu thunders into Mathieu Bastereau, the giant man who's come on in the midfield. There might be some space for Glasgow, perhaps a hint of an overlap as the Argentinian internationals all over the pitch here in Dublin. Cancelier sets it up. Dupree out the back. Again, we ask whether there could be numbers for Glasgow as Jones fixes a man and finds Tuipulotu. Now out to Dempsey, the Scottish international. Another Scot in Kyle Steyn down the left touchline. Better from Glasgow, almost up to the 22. Olivon goes in at the side. Penalty advantage to Glasgow. They get the penalty. They can go back into the 22. And surely they've got to take one of these chances eventually.
Better from Glasgow in attack there. At some point you've got to confront the defensive line. Miotti's playing too deep. Whenever they pull the ball back from the forwards, that second attacking line is too deep. Physical carry from Tuipulotu. Not many people bump off Mathieu Bastereau, but he's done it there. And they gave Steyn half a yard, pinned his ears back and went down the left-hand touchline. Charles Olivon came in from the side. The French back rower, picked off by Wayne Barnes. But they've got to get close to the Toulon defensive line. They've got to challenge Toulon to make some quick decisions. At the moment they're just getting to shift off, shepherd them to the touchline.
Threes come off. Glasgow 18.
Another change, yeah, Xander Fagerson, who was down injured just at the start of this second half. He's being replaced by Simon Bergen, so losing one of their kingpin forwards, Glasgow. Their tight head, Xander Fagerson. Still half-time, by the way, in the Barnsley-Bolton game in the League One playoff. 1-0 Barnsley, that means they lead 2-1. Did you see that Sheffield Wednesday game last night?
No.
Apart from that,
They overturned a 4-0 first leg deficit, won 4-0, and then won 6-1 in injury time to reach the playoff final. Absolutely ridiculous.
Football, eh?
No, it's just crazy, crazy stuff. And yeah, so far so good for Barnsley as that second half just kicks off, and we've got our reporter there, Charlie Slater, who will update us through this second half, which is 5 minutes old. Glasgow 0, Toulon 21. As they make a change at hooker, Johnny Matthews throws in and he's on the money, the replacement hooker. And the forwards, the backs now get involved with the forwards from Glasgow. Decent rolling ball from Glasgow. They're to about 6 or 7 metres out now. One stoppage, they've got to use it soon unless they can keep the forward momentum with this maul. 21-0 they trail Glasgow, their first ever European final. And can they work their way back into it, or will this Toulon machine be too strong, too powerful and too used to winning these big finals? Whizzed out from Horn to Tuipulotu. There are numbers here for Glasgow. Can they execute? Out to Cancelier. And he loses it forward in contact, and it's just been the story of the game. every time Glasgow work a promising position, they lose the ball. Their accuracy has been nowhere. Beautifully worked. Ollie Smith, though, kind of cramped Cancellia's space. So a word on that in a moment. But let's get an update from the goal from the PGA Championship with Ian Carter.
Okay, scrum.
Stafford McDowell replacing number 10, Domingo Miotti.
Please. A little more, sorry. That's it. Yeah. Okay, just to the left, please. Thank you. No, to the left. To the left. Thank you. Height, good height. Same again, mate.
Thanks very much, Ian Carter, and Ian and the team will bring you all the best coverage from the PGA Championship over the next few days, who will etch their name into PGA Championship history and scoop one of the majors. Glasgow's scrum has given away a free kick, Paul Grayson, so a word on that, and also that backline move that promised so much, but as we've said all game, hasn't delivered anything for the Warriors.
No, they just managed to get Ollie Smith a little bit of space, and he was heading off. Colby was the last man. If he'd got to him, he could have had Cancellia on the wide outside. As it was, Cancellia committed to a straight line, cramped Smith for room, and the opportunity was gone.
And now Glasgow having to play out from their own half. Tua Pilotu sets it up. They're just outside their own 22, and they whiz it down the right-hand side to Cancellia. George Horn, Cummins, just up to the 10-metre line go Glasgow. 48 minutes gone, 5 live sport from the BBC. Live Challenge Cup final rugby as a High West comes forward to take it and sets it up just short of the halfway line. Payug now. Colby, the World Cup winning Springbok, good vision from Colby. Was that a 50-22 or was it taken back in? We'll wait for the officials to decide. Either way, it's a beauty of a kick and it will be a 50-22 according to the assistant referee on the far side.
Glasgow went to the air. The Higher West took it comfortably, and then Payog played away quickly to the midfield. A driving run and then an offload to Cheslin Colby, changed his mind. Often that uses his feet for some serious dancing and sprinting. This time turned back against the grain, belted it back over the ruck. 50-22, line out Toulon.
Toulon then throw to the front of the line out. Tangu from the replacement hooker. Tolofua's throw. The maul has gone to ground, but you do fear a bit for Glasgow that they were all that territory in possession in the last 20 odd minutes of the game, but Toulon have repelled it, and then when they get into Glasgow territory, you wonder whether they've got that extra ruthless cutting edge. Glasgow tried to spoil, have given away a knock-on and a high tackle now as well, and if you're Toulon, though they're missing Bigger and Serran have both gone off injured, surely you take the penalty here, Paul Grayson, to go 24-0 and just say to Glasgow, keep throwing stuff at us, we'll keep the scoreboard ticking.
Yeah, no try bonus points in finals. It's all about the win. Stretch that lead to 24. Interesting to see who. Looks like Payog's going to kick the goal. Another in the long tradition of French 9s who can play 10, 10s who can play 9. Exactly the same as Serran did in the first half. Took on all the duties once Dan Bigger had gone off the field.
Right, they are going for goal then. And this will be for 24-0. 50 minutes gone, Challenge Cup final, live in Dublin. It's Payog and he just glides it through nicely. Glasgow 0, Toulon 24. Dan Bigger claps from the touchline.
1 second.
And that is a crushing blow really for Glasgow after all that pressure. Let's go to Barnsley then, the League One playoff. Bolton against Barnsley, the latest from Charlie Slater.
Totally on you when you're ready. Tackle, let go!
Nice one, Charlie. All the latest from Barnsley with Charlie Slater as Toulon through Jean-Baptiste Gross, the French internationals all across the 23, both in the starting 15s and the benches, as Payot kicks downfield, and Glasgow through Stafford McDowell were going to kick, and now they'll end up running it, and they'll set the ball up just short of the 10-metre line. But it's getting to the point now, isn't it, Paul Grayson, where if Glasgow don't score next, they can pretty much kiss goodbye to the Challenge Cup and creating a major slice of history in their club's folklore. Turned over by Toulon, too much power. Kieran Brooks is now on, the England international, and he took it from Parise's nice pass out to Ohio West. Bastareaud, this stocky figure, but with the deft touch with the left boot. What a kick that is from Bastareaud. Talk us through that one, Paul Grayson. Bastareaud is a huge lump of a man, but has shown the deftness of touch to nudge into the corner. Glasgow have to throw into the line out 5 metres out. Yeah,
and again, Glasgow, authors of their own misfortune. They tried a trick.
Oh, they've overthrown the line out and Toulon have scored. And this is nightmare stuff now for Glasgow Warriors. We were just trying to see a replay of the kick, and we look up, and Glasgow have tried to go quickly, and they've thrown it straight to Charles Olivon. Oh, it's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. It's well played from Olivon, but it is a composure completely deserting Glasgow Warriors. 29-0, and that's got to be curtains.
Yeah, it is, and it's just come from another. They tried to run it out. Glasgow turned the ball over. Counter-attack from Toulon, went to Mathieu Bastareaud. Was never going to run too far with it, decided to put it on the toe, dribbled it into touch. There we go, Wayne Barnes.
Right, there might be a reprieve then for Glasgow, and how desperately they need this Challenge Cup final. Well, I was going to say it could hinge on it. They've got to come back from 24-0.
Well, Olivon was never within the 15, so effectively he's offside.
Yes, good spot. No try and a penalty. Well, Glasgow can breathe. They're travelling fans who have come here in fantastic voice, full of optimism and enthusiasm about their first ever European final. They'll be feeling despondent, but a little bit of respite for Glasgow. No try, penalty. Olivon was offside, and it's cleared by Glasgow, almost up to the halfway line, where they will get the line out from the penalty.
14.
Yeah, slight reprieve.
14.
Having said that, it is only slight.
14.
They've got to throw caution to the wind, Glasgow. They've tried all their trick plays. They haven't come off. High octane, ball in play. Give the ball some air, give it some width. Engage defenders when you get the opportunity. Try and play through the line as opposed to just moving the ball backwards and forwards in front of it.
Well, what have Glasgow got as they attack on their own 10-metre line, trying to work a shape as they move the ball to the left-hand side and give Stein a bit of space to run into. Good strength from Carl Stein. Far from the 22 now. Good quick ball. Whizzed on it was by Ali Price. They've got a 6-2 bench, which means 6 forwards and 2 backs. Oh, a kick through there. Could have seen Stein gather and score, but McDowell sets it up. Price is scragged. Nice ball, Dempsey. Flipped on by McDowell again. 22 line for the Glasgow Warriors. Ali Price coming off the bench at number 9. The experienced Scottish international, a test lion as well, is Ali Price. 22 from Glasgow, who got a reprieve when they were about to go 29-0 down. It's 24-0. It's still a huge mountain to climb, but Fagerson drives on for Glasgow, who are within 10 metres or so. Good pick up, Johnny Matthews. Centre field, in between the try line and the 22. Price is lurking and flips it inside. Only about 12 metres, and with numbers to the left. Matt Fagerson out the back. McDowell to Ipilotu. Hugh Jones drops it. It's really not been Hugh Jones' night. And with the potential for a 2-on-1, Jones dropped the ball from Tuipulotu, and it will be a scrum to Toulon, Paul Grayson.
Yes, one or two players get into a bit of a pushing and shoving match at the end of that passage of play. Much better from Glasgow, much flatter. 2 or 3 times just instinctively, because they're playing close to the defensive line, making good decisions, keeping the ball alive, and then they got to the edge. Stein the ball was just fumbled. Cheslin Colby got into a to and fro with
Just control.
with Kyle Steyn right on the edge
Control
as
on
Hugh
set.
Jones fumbled the ball.
Control what you can control.
Settle down is the message from Wayne Barnes. No lack of passion in this final. Glasgow absolutely desperate to get something. 54 minutes gone.
Okay, to the left, please. Just the left.
They've probably spent a healthy 20 minutes in and around the Toulon 22 over the back end of the first half and part of the second half.
Balance.
Still a big fat donut on the board.
Crouch.
Yeah, it's a scrum now to
Bind.
Toulon. 5 minutes now, they've got a free kick now, Toulon, and yeah, we're coming at this from a neutral point of view, but there is a sense of exasperation because Glasgow have come with such an opportunity and just have made such a litany of mistakes that any kind of promising build-up play has just been undone, if not by one mistake, but sometimes by a second straight away.
Yeah, almost so hyped up to have their shot that everything's just happened at fraction of a second too quickly. All those line-out plays that they tried in the first half when they were a 5-metre line-out, a complex move, they've gone to the back of the line-out 3 times, twice they've conceded tries from it.
Well, one in the line out by Fagerson. Down the short side, they come Steyn. Carl Steyn, brilliant running. He's going to score. And finally, they're on the board. And listen to the roar around the Aviva. Light blue Glasgow flags fly all around us. They've waited a long time, 55 minutes, but they're up and running finally in the Challenge Cup final.
And that's the first set piece they've got absolutely right. Ball thrown in, taken at the top of its flight, immediately played out of the maul to the short side. Kyle Steyn gets the ball. He's got Ali Price back on his inside. Takes it in 2 hands, throws the dummy, then steps off his left inside by Nicolo. Brilliant finish from the captain.
Leading from the front, Kyle Steyn, one of their better performers today.
Absolutely.
And he's got the try.
Pace and physicality when called upon. That's exactly how it's been working all week in training. That's the first time they've got their lines right.
Just need to try and get to the bottom of how Glasgow are lining up in the back line, because with a 6-2 bench, they're going to potentially have to move players out of position. George Horn must have gone to 10 with Price coming on to 9, because Horn is lining up this kick and he's nailed it nicely. So Glasgow 7, Toulon 24, and I'll let you try and put this jigsaw together about where everyone is playing, because Price and McDowell are on, but with one back short on the bench, they're having to mix and match a little bit, but they are on the board finally.
Yeah, they are on the board. Accurate play. We'll have a good look now to see which they might go interchangeable at 9 and 10.
Good.
From the position Price was in there, it probably suggests that he was playing 9 at the line out, because he was so close to that maul when they broke out to the left-hand side. But that's the gamble with a 6-2.
Yeah, we saw it cost Toulouse dear, didn't we, in the Champions Cup semi-final, and then it's been dropped by Tuipulotu, and a big groan from Paul Grayson, because you've coached at the highest level, Paul, you've played at the highest level. It is the cardinal sin, isn't it, when you score a try, to drop the kick-off and undo all of that good work and give this mighty Toulon machine a scrum deep in your own 22.
Oh, and it's routine. The kick is fractionally too long. They've got a pod of 3 forwards in front. They don't even have to go up, because they know that Tuipulotu's got a free standing catch. Nobody ever means to make a mistake. It's funny how it happens. It is one of those things like, well, you scored a goal, don't concede. You immediately go and make a mistake and concede. Exactly the same in this sport. You've scored a try, let's get out of our half nice and neatly.
Set.
Absolute standard failure of skill.
Good Toulon scrum. Pyogue waits for it. They've got a penalty advantage. Bastero, nice hands out the back. Ohio West. Cheslin, Colbay, look at the speed. He flicks it inside to Vinokola. Who's going to score? Is he? He does. That could be the moment Toulon win the Challenge Cup. They have struck back straight away, nullified the Glasgow score, and I think the players know it.
Glasgow finally landed a punch and then dropped their guard, poked their chin out, counter punch from Toulon, decisive knockout.
Great try. Vinokola the scorer. And 29-7, Toulon now lead.
Great ball away from the base of the scrum from Payog to Bastereau. He pulled the ball back, deft skill from him. Ihaya West had recycled himself, blasted a quick pass to Cheslin Colby on the fade. Colby knew that Vinokola was going to drop underneath him on the switch. He could gas for the outside, drawing defenders with him, almost pointed. Vinokola waited till Stain committed to the tackle. Perfect technique on the switch, dances back between the next two defenders. Power and pace to get over the line. Beautiful try.
Beautiful try, crushing blow for Glasgow. Payog misses the kick, 29-7, and it was minutes between that Stain try, which took so long to come for Glasgow, 55 minutes of huff and puff, and then the drop kick-off. Toulon, powerful scrum, great try. Vinokola linking with the brilliant Colby, and just like that, Toulon score, and they lead by 29-7. 5 Live Sport from the BBC on the hour mark. Loads of live sport happening tonight. We've got golf with Ian Carter, Charlie Slater at the playoff at Barnsley. There's 6th round action in the Challenge Cup as well. I'll run you through the latest scores as those games edge towards a conclusion. And I'll do that now actually, because the ball's gone out of place. And Helen's lead at Halifax 26-6. Lee lead at Wakefield 12, Lee 40. That's a full-time score. Halifax 6, St Helens 26, coming towards the end. And an 8 o'clock kickoff, comfortable for Hull KR. They lead Batley Bulldogs by 44 points to 0. And the tie of the round is tomorrow. Leeds against Wigan. You can watch that on BBC One. Glasgow attack, send their forwards into centre field, halfway line, but they lead 29-7, and they've lost it, but then it's gathered by Glasgow and McDowell. They might have numbers to the left, Glasgow, if they can use this. Dempsey, oh, it's a penalty. It's another neck roll from Glasgow, and it was actually going back for the earlier offence from the ruck where the ball shot out, Paul. It'll be a penalty to Toulon, illegal clear from Glasgow.
Yeah, Glasgow did well to get all the way to the centre spot, really, with a hard carry. Couldn't quite see who got in and over the top of the ball. I think it was Tolafua, the replacement hooker in the midfield. Then there was a subsequent neck roll, so they went back to the first one, which is right back on the halfway line. Ihaya West goes for broke and gets it. That's a great kick.
Good kick, Ihaya West, to about 16 metres or so deep in the Glasgow 22. And is this when, as a player, you know that it's just not going to be your night? Still plenty of time. Glasgow can score tries. They're good enough to make Toulon work a lot harder. But a 29-7, and the way Toulon can just flick a switch is ominous from a Glasgow point of view.
Yes, it is, and you get that feeling as a player. You never stop trying, but when you've tried half a dozen things and they've all gone wrong, and the speed at which you get scored against is like 1 or 2 phases, sometimes hard to get your head away from the feeling that it just isn't your day.
And they've got a penalty advantage as Kieran Brooks, once an England international, drives on. Payog out to Bastereau. Nice hands from Bastereau. West, beautiful switch with Jeremy Sinzel coming up from fullback. There for Colby, who's kind of stepped into fly half, and he's off on a mazy run. We've seen this for the Springboks, the World Cup winner in 2019, Colby, a Champions Cup winner with Toulouse, and soon to be a Challenge Cup winner if Toulon can hold on to this lead, or even better it. Inside from Wester, one of the try scorers, Vinokola. Great offload. Champagne stuff now from the French side. Oh, a little flick out the back from Payog. Ihaya West, when he looked cross-field. No, he goes inside to Macho Bastereau. The sparing defence coming in. Rory Darger's off the bench, but they're coming in waves, Toulon. West skips almost past Carl Stain. Good tackling, but they're coming again, Toulon. Nice hands out to the outstanding Fijian Vui Dravivalu, who set up a try earlier so superbly. Driven on by Alan Uuisi in the second row. The sparing defence from Glasgow, but they're still coming in waves, Toulon. Driven on again by Chris Tolafua, once of Saracens. 29-7 to Toulon. They're so close to Challenge Cup glory. 17 minutes away. Parise, nice hands out to Olivon. 3 or 4 Toulon players to the right can walk it in. Colby's up from fullback. Nice delay. Alan Uuisi, he's a metre or two short. Desperate defence again from Glasgow. Flicked out from Colby. They're interchanging 9, 10, 15, and the Fijians up to the line. Fuadravavalu, fantastic stuff. He deserves his try. He gets it, and Glasgow are beaten.
Let's rejoice in the rugby that's beaten them, though, Chris. That's fantastic stuff from Toulon. Not just power runner after power runner, but the guile and the skill of Colby, the dancing feet, the delayed passes, the offload from Parise. Manful defence from Glasgow, but eventually they just run out of numbers, run out of physicality. Fuadravavalu, who we've seen straighten the line before, hits a hard line between two tired defenders. Celebrates hard with his teammates. They've got quality players right across the field, and they play a nice brand of rugby.
Well, they're probably going to miss out on the top 14 playoffs, final day of the regular top 14 season next weekend. So this is quite probably their last hugely meaningful match this season, Toulon, and they are certainly making the most of it. They've been outstanding, and through Payog they can extend their lead even further, and they do. Glasgow 7, Toulon 36, as we go back to Barnsley. The latest with you, Charlie Slater.
67 minutes on the clock. Barnsley still leading by 1-0 against Bolton, but they nearly doubled their lead just a few moments ago. Adam Phillips whacking the crossbar on the half volley from 18 yards out, but Barnsley are getting closer to Wembley, and boy do their fans know it. They're leading by 1-0 on the night.
Thanks very much, Charlie. Getting tense. Barnsley against Bolton. Stage of the season, great time for sport, isn't it, with playoffs and cup finals, big Premiership final next weekend. Our golf correspondent, his Leicester Tigers team didn't quite make it, just edged out by Sale Sharks, who go to Twickenham to play Saracens. That's our commentary on 5 Live next Saturday. Penalty to Glasgow, so Toulon infringing at the ruck, but it feels a bit too little too late, but it's hotting up no doubt at the golf. Ian Carter, speak the devil, come on in.
Things are warming up a little bit for Rory McIlroy, because he's just birdied the 9th with a lengthy putt. He's over a birdie putt on the 10th, this to get back to 1 over par misses. Oh, he's missed it from around about 5 feet, and that's a good opportunity that has gone a-begging. A slight change at the top of the leaderboard, because the Canadian Corey Connors is certainly warming up. He's just birdied the 2nd, his 11th. That's taken him to 6 under par, and he's 2 shots clear.
Nice one, Ian. It's always those kind of each way. Corey Connors is one of those each way players, isn't he, Paul Grayson? When you do have a couple of quid on, he finishes 14 over par, and then when you don't, he's marching up the leaderboard. Right, can Glasgow march towards the Toulon line? They've got a decent maul going. They're only 5 metres out. They've got a penalty advantage, and if they can score now, this one might not quite be dead just yet. Inches away, Glasgow. They trail 36-7. They've got to take every single opportunity going. They've got a penalty. The ball's been knocked on by Glasgow, and they'll probably go back to the line out.
Yes, they do, and they go into touch. They've got a 5 metre line out. They get another opportunity. They must have had half a dozen or more of these. They've converted one. Brilliant try from Stain. So much closer this time, though. But if they're going to do something extraordinary, they've got to start now.
Well, they've got them all going, the Warriors, trailing as they do by 36 points to 7, and there are only 12 and a half minutes left, and they've taken so much time and energy to score their points. They've been bundled out of play, whereas Toulon just go bang, bang, bang every time they're in Glasgow's territory. Bundled out of play, Toulon line out. And we've said it countless times, whether on Sports Extra or on 5 Live tonight, Paul Grayson, it's just not happened for Glasgow.
No, and as they crab towards the touchline, Price couldn't get the ball out.
Glasgow!
They've been manhandled by Toulon, in fairness. They came here as underdogs with a puncher's chance if they could get everything right.
Glasgow, move. Thank you.
I've forgotten they're called Glasgow.
Oh, that's a wild throw coming in from Toulon that might give an opportunity for Glasgow and Dempsey, and they've got it, and they've got numbers here. They have to score. They can walk this in. They will. Try for the Warriors. Cancellieri scores. It might be too little too late. It might be scant consolation, but it's a try for the Warriors. Glasgow 12, Toulon 36, coming from a rare Toulon mistake tonight.
Yeah, you could swap the shirts over, couldn't you? It looked like a Glasgow line out. Went for the quick one over the top. Too far, they didn't react quick enough. The bouncing ball went Glasgow's way.
Thanks, mate.
And a decent skip pass to Hugh Jones, who fed Cancellieri, who's come back off the bench. Easy finishing at the corner. That's the sort of speed of strike they need. They just need 2 or 3 more quick.
Well, they've got to take every single point going. It's still so many points to make up in so little time. 36-12 with 11 minutes left. I think even the most optimistic Warriors will accept it's probably a bit forlorn. Horn hits the post. Valiant effort from the 9, but it clipped the outside of the left post. Glasgow 12, Toulon 36. They have got 12 points this second half after drawing a blank in the first half. The only problem is that Toulon have piled on the points themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, good. You pointed to Sergio Parise, who is getting a moment here. And look around us, people are on their feet. They know the significance of this. The great former Italy captain, age 39, 142 Italy caps, and on the day that Alan Wynne-Jones announced his shock retirement, is that the last time we see one of the icons of the modern game in action. Sergio Parise off. He's taken the applause of his teammates, and he knows that barring a Glasgow miracle, he is ending his career as a champion. Tuipulotu steps and tries to set it up. Whizzed away from Price. Hugh Jones throws a dummy, but has Bastereau and Cornel Dupree all over him. Bit of initiative to this Glasgow move, but they might have to go back to the boot, and Price's left peg does just that. Up comes Stain, who's kind of nowhere, but I think that was fine. Dempsey's got it. Great ball from Dempsey to Jones. Jones kicks for himself. Jones against Colby. Colby's absolutely rapid, and he belts it dead himself, Colby. That was a strange call. So it will be a 5-metre scrum. I kind of think it's one of those things you only do if you're 36-12 up in a cup final and you know we're going into the final 10 minutes. I don't think he does that 0-0.
No, 5 metres, running back towards his own line. Another little snipe down the blind side. Hugh Jones put the ball on the toe, then it was a foot race. Colby ran away from Hugh Jones comfortably, but the ball was bouncing. He was facing his own line. It was on the, or about the 5-metre line. He just decided, rather than play it himself and try and run out of danger, he would just volley it dead over into the stands. It was effective, not the cleanest strike. Quite a lot of sock in the volley, but it did its job. But like you say, first 5 minutes he might have scooped it up and find a different way of dealing with the issue.
So 24 points need to be made up. I mean, is it ridiculous to even think that they can score 4? Yeah, you're nodding your head. I mean, we're trying to keep it interesting, Paul. Come on, give us a bit of support. Do you not think?
Okay, blue ball.
Well, here we go.
Four converted tries in 9 minutes, having taken 55 minutes to score 1.
Yeah. Set the scrum. 30 seconds. Score, convert, another 30 seconds. A minute for Toulon to walk back to the halfway line.
Watch on.
Highly unlikely, but it should be fun watching them try.
Glasgow 12, Toulon 36. A commanding Toulon lead after a dominant performance from the 3 times Champions Cup winners, who strangely have lost all their Challenge Cup finals up to this point. But barring something truly special from Glasgow, that's changing tonight. Carry from Tuipulotu. Meeting of big men with Bastereau, but they come to the right and almost had a run-in down that right-hand touchline. Penalty advantage to Glasgow. Illegal tackle from Toulon. Jack Dempsey, he'll work all day, the Scottish international. Price now out to Simon Bergen, 4 metres away from the Toulon liner. Glasgow, Tuipulotu, nice little ball. McDowell, Cancellieri, the try scorer for Toulon, tries to shake off a couple, try scorer for Glasgow, tries to shake off a couple of Toulon defenders. Another big carry in coming in by Darge. 5 metres out, Price to Jack Dempsey Bergen in to do the clearing, but 36-12, it's such a big lead. Huge hit, Cheslin Colby on Cancellieri. That rocked the Aviva Stadium. You can hear the ooze all around us. Still Glasgow possession though. 8 minutes to go in the cup final. Matt Fagerson valiantly carrying to the end. They've got numbers to the left. Cancellieri is again hit hard by Colby. What a nightmare 30 seconds for the Argentinian. And Cheslin Colby showing he can mix it in attack and defence. There are some afters here. I'm not sure if Cancellieri liked being singled out by one of the smallest men on the pitch for some physical damage. And as ever, it's just a bit of posturing. And there will be a penalty to Glasgow to go back to.
He's picked him out twice, Colby. They've got a wide pass from the base, so the ball's in the air for maybe 10 or 11 metres. Cheslin Colby's so quick, he can make up the 5 metre gap between the two of them. First one, Cancellieri didn't know he was coming, buried him. Second time was exactly the same.
Replacement got an injury for number 3.
Neither massive.
On, please, but we've got a high tackle. What stop,
but Cancellieri wanted to have a go after the whistle had gone. Stephen McDowell came from a long way away. He's got no business. And actually, from Glasgow's point of view, when they probably played another minute after that penalty advantage. That's why you just need a Hail Mary or knock it on yourself, go back and tap from the spot the penalty was given.
When you need four converted tries, in 7 minutes. Kieran Brooks coming off. Glasgow go to the corner. We'll check in with Charlie Slater shortly. We'll be back with Ian Carter before 10 o'clock. After 10, it's Greg McKenzie who's in for Stephen Nolan to take you through the evening. The evening will be marked by Toulon celebrations in Dublin, unless Glasgow can really come up with something pretty much unprecedented. They trail 36-12. They're looking for their third try of this half, and they're only a couple of metres away. Price now out to Hugh Jones. Jones delays his pass. Horn's pass is a beauty to Carlstein, who's got to score here, and he does. So Glasgow do get a try, and Matt Fagerson certainly not giving up the ghost. He punches the air and marches back to halfway. Try from Carlstein, who's been excellent tonight in a quite probably a losing cause. And Glasgow move up to 17 points, and Horn's just got to try. Paul Grayson, you know all about kicking goals. 400 points for England. He's got to somehow make sure he gets this tricky kick and take no time over it at all.
Yeah, that's it. That's the algorithm. Do it quick but get it right.
Yeah. Do you like that when your forwards tell you, hurry up, but don't miss it? Cheers, guys. Yeah, really useful. Under 7 minutes, 6 and a bit minutes to go. Glasgow 17, Toulon 36. Horn's got to hurry up. There's not much time and loads to do for Glasgow, but he's taking his time because he wants to kick it because every point is precious. Horrible for Horn. Nice kick though, glides it in nicely. Real sort of golfer's draw from right to left that. Glasgow 19, Toulon 36, 17 points needed in 6 minutes for Glasgow to force extra time.
Yeah, and that's maybe the 20 seconds he took there extra, that's worth it because it's worth 2 points. The minute they burned playing one out runners round the corner when the penalty was given, that's wasted time. That was a good investment and a decent return. Catch the ball, go berserk.
Well, deep into the final 10 minutes and going into the final 10 minutes at Barnsley. What's happening there, Charlie?
Well, it's still 1-0 here to Barnsley, but Bolton are on the attack. Left-footed ball goes beyond everybody and runs out for a throw-in on the far side. A few moments ago, there was an indirect free kick that Morley hit for Bolton from inside the Barnsley 18-yard box after a defensive mix-up at the back, which saw the Barnsley goalkeeper handle a back pass, but he whizzed it just over the top of the crossbar. At the moment, it still looks like Barnsley are on top and the more likely to go and get a second goal in this game, but it's still such a fragile lead, and these, Chris Jones, are the League One playoffs, and everybody knows how dramatic they can be. It's 1-0, but it's far from over.
Yeah, and you've got to look to last night to see what can happen, and we'll keep you updated with events at Barnsley, who are on course for the League One playoff final as things stand, and Toulon are on course for the Challenge Cup as things stand. They lead by 36 points to 19, and was that Glasgow's last chance? They tried to run it from their own 22, met by this black shirted wall oppressively in the defensive line from Toulon, forcing a scrum, and it's Toulon who now have the put-in a very dangerous position.
And a little bit like the pattern of the final, when Toulon have needed something, they found it. They needed a decent kick from Ohio West, kicked it deep. They knew that they needed to stop Glasgow getting out of their own half. They pressed high, they only had one in the backfield, one player covering the backfield, everybody else up. Cope tackle from the big second row. Game's done.
Fed in the scrum, huge Toulon scrum, major flexing of the muscles from the French side. The crossfield kick from Payot can't be claimed over on the left-hand side, but penalty, and Toulon can really do what they like. They can kick the goal if they just want to eat down the clock. They can scrum if they want to further flex their forward dominance, or they can do something else, kick for the corner, tap and go. What would you do here? They're going to scrum. Merciless stuff.
Absolutely merciless. And they'll want to play away from it, and they'll want to finish with a flourish, as we see on the screen. Sergio Parise.
It's selfies time.
Standing for his selfie. That's his professional smile, that one. Wonder what emotions are going through him at the moment, his mind at the moment.
I don't think he would be selfieing at 15 points all, would he? When someone from the crowd leans over and says, "Give us a picture, Sergio," he goes, "Well, 36-19, what's the harm?"
I can do that, yeah.
Crouch.
Scrum Toulon, centre field. They are 3 minutes away from Challenge Cup glory. This one is going to mean a lot to Toulon, who've been slightly starved of silverware after those 3 Champions Cup victories in 2013, 14 and 15.
Oh, your foot might be stuck. You're not
that was fantasy rugby, wasn't it? They were pick anyone you want.
Yeah, when you got Johnny Wilkinson lining up alongside Matt Gitto with Brian Habana and Drew Mitchell in the back line, it is championship manager for Rugby Union.
It took them a long time to get it right. They had a number of years where they invested a lot of money, had a lot of really good players and did nothing. It was almost the arrival of Wilkinson that gave them the professional rigour,
the cultural shift.
Yeah, completely.
And then players like Parise and Bigger and Olivon means that culture remains strong at Toulon, and they're going to cap their season with a Challenge Cup win tonight. Champions Cup final tomorrow. We'll be back here in these same seats for the big one. La Rochelle against Leinster. The might of Dublin against Ronan O'Gara's La Rochelle side, who have reached the last 3 Champions Cup finals. They're the defending champions. That is going to be some game here at the Aviva. Ohio West is having some game, and he's scored to cap it all off. Glory for Toulon. Celebrations for their fans around us. Ohio West, who's played the whole game in Dan Bigger's absence, had the freedom of Dublin to walk into. And Toulon know they've scored the try that means any desperate, despairing hope from Glasgow of a remarkable comeback completely extinguished. It wasn't going to happen anyway. But it's the kind of try that just proves how authoritative and dominant Toulon have been tonight. 41-19 they lead.
Yeah, fantastic carry into the midfield. I think it was Issa. Real heavy carry right under the posts. And Ohio West, this is what he does so well. Change of direction, carries the ball in 2 hand, double, triple pump. Let everybody get out of his way. Brilliant.
We expect a lot more from Glasgow tonight. I think we expect this one to be in the balance, but we can say for sure, can't we, that it won't be 41-19 on 79 minutes tomorrow come 4:45 or come 6:30 kind of time.
Yeah.
when La Rochelle and Leinster meet.
What a mouth-watering prospect that is. It's amazing how quickly you get kind of a historical rivalry between 2 teams. They tore up Leinster's script last year, and they're back at it again tomorrow. Leinster perennially at home in this tournament, as the conversion gets nailed to 43-19 Toulon. Potentially an epic tomorrow with the quality of player on show.
And these are the moments, aren't they, Paul Grayson? You've been in squads that have won trophies domestically and internationally, and it's just watching the body language of the players on the sidelines, the non-playing members of the squad, the players that have been replaced or the players that have come off injured. The celebrations are starting for Toulon, and they're attacking now. They're still going, but I think Payot will say that'll be enough, and it goes back to Cheslin Colby, who's waiting for the clock to tick down, and he's kicking it into the stands, and Toulon celebrate. Their bench invades the pitch. They're Challenge Cup champions, and how they've deserved it. 43-19. An astonishing performance from Toulon. Glasgow sadly nowhere tonight. But Toulon deserving winners as Wayne Barnes blows the final whistle. And we look, Paul Grayson, at the likes of Sergio Parise. Has he got an Italian flag draped around him? He does. He spoke to us on the Rugby Union Weekly about his pride. There's 142 caps for Italy. Perhaps not the silverware he deserved individually at international level, but he's ending his legendary career on a big high here.
Absolutely, with a trophy lift and a European Challenge Cup winners medal. Astonishing career, really. Not many W's in that Italian shirt, but a legacy of performance and leadership that can match anybody in the game. As the Toulon players, exhausted but deliriously happy, suddenly find enough energy to start jumping up and down in their huddle on the far side of the pitch. What Glasgow will take with them is a bucket load of experience. Finals are difficult. They probably feel like they've let themselves down on their first go, but you don't know how it feels till you get there. And they've done the hard part. They got one under their belt. They'll redouble their efforts in the off-season. It will stand them in good stead. And it's not just latter stages of knockout competitions that experience helps. It's winning league matches. It's putting yourself in the right position for playoff rugby. So yes, the downside is they lose a final. The upside is enormous amounts of experience that they can take away, and a little bit of pain that will fuel their pre-season.
We'll go to Incarter of the Golf shortly, and to Charlie Slater at Barnsley before we hand over to Greg McKenzie to take you through the evening here on 5 Live, the news at 10 o'clock as always as well. I also want to speak to you about Alan Wynne-Jones and Justin Tibrick, that shock news that came in today for anyone just joining us on 5 Live. But Glasgow, how much will they feel they've let themselves down? You mentioned that phrase, they will feel that. To what extent? Was it a team that will learn, or will they go, what an opportunity missed by them just not being themselves?
They'll look at that first half and they'll be able to point at 3 incidents that cost them 21 points, and they were self-inflicted wounds. They didn't have to do much Toulon to get a healthy lead on the scoreboard. Yes, Baptiste Serran's first try, beautiful skill and opportunism. The other two were overthrown lineouts when Toulon had coughed the ball up. All Glasgow had to do was get their routine right and get out of their own half. They failed to do that. They gave Toulon, a team littered with internationals. I mean, they brought an all-international front row off the bench. Giving them that much of a lead was always going to make it difficult. And once they were at arm's length, Toulon got enough experience and big game players to know that as Glasgow chanced their arm more and more, the opportunities would come easier and easier for Toulon, and they were easily good enough to take those chances. I say Glasgow will feel like they've let themselves down. Their supporters won't. They'll be happy to be here and be involved in the competition. The athlete's mindset is the hurt and the pain that you take away, and you turn that into motivation. They want to come back and do it again.
Yeah, they will. But for now, it's Toulon who celebrate down below us. And Baptiste Serran, a word about him. He's on crutches, so hopefully that's not terminal for his World Cup hopes. He's getting a lot of hugs, but for those 40 minutes he ran amok here at the Aviva, didn't he? He scored 2 tries.
He was sensational. When Dan Bigger went off, he thought that might upset the apple cart a little bit, but Serran had the game by the scruff of the neck in the first half and took the game away from Glasgow. Hopefully that injury's not too bad. Like we touched on in commentary, he was heavily strapped around the hamstrings. He may well just have tweaked it. But France at 9, Serran, Luku, Dupont, et al. They've got plenty in the locker.
They've got options, haven't they? Right, stoppage time. Into stoppage time at Barnsley, Charlie.
6 minutes have been added on, and Barnsley continue to lead by 1-0. But you won't be surprised to hear that Bolton are on the attack. They're playing the ball around now. They put it back up towards the halfway line. Santos has it. They're going to have to throw everything and the kitchen sink at Barnsley. But to be honest, throughout the majority of the game, they haven't really done that. They've hardly troubled the Barnsley goalkeeper. And it is the Barnsley supporters that you can hear singing now. It is a fragile 1-goal lead here. They lead by 2-1 aggregate. As the ball goes in towards the back post, it'll trickle out on the far side for a Barnsley throw-in. Cue a big sigh of relief here. 5 more minutes of stoppage time remain, but Barnsley are edging closer to their first Wembley final in 7 years.
Good stuff, Charlie. Keep us updated. Sheffield Wednesday await at Wembley. Full times, by the way, in the Challenge Cup 6th round. Comfortable wins for St Helens, Lee and Hull KR. It was Halifax 6, St Helens 26, Wakefield 12, Lee 40, Hull KR 50, Batley Bulldogs 0. To the goal for Ian Carter. What's the latest, Ian?
Corey Connors of Canada still out in front. No bogeys today in tough conditions through 12 holes, 3 birdies. It's moved him to 6 under par, 2 shots clear of Scotty Scheffler, who moves along very steadily, just 1 drop shot after opening birdies on the first 2 holes. He's playing the 13th at 4 under par. And Luke Donald, the European Ryder Cup captain, will be happy to see Victor Hovland up there as well. He's birdied the 10th, hold a lovely putt there, and he's just played a superb bunker shot. That is often a weakness for Hovland, but on the 11th he's going to save his par, and that will keep him at 4 under par. So that's the very top of the leaderboard. A couple of Englishmen certainly in the mix here. Justin Rose, after his round of 70 on top of his first round, 69 at 1 under par, and Callum Tarrant is still up there as well at 1 under. He's gone to the turn in 33. As for Rory McIlroy, he's at 2 over par, just teed off and found the fairway on the 12th.
Talk to us a bit more about Rory, Ian. How much has that sort of Masters experience knocked him a bit, do you think?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, it was striking talking to him at the start of the week, and I asked him how much of a jolt it had been to miss the cut there, and he said that he'd never felt more certain that he was going to have a great week at Augusta, and of course he missed the cut there. And since then he missed the Heritage Tournament. He didn't play well at Quail Hollow, which is a happy hunting ground for him. Remember, he's missed the cut at the Masters and the Players' Championship, and I'm just looking at him now. He's just played his second shot into the 12th. He's found the green, but he's not threatening the flag. There's just something that has deflated McIlroy at the moment. He's not playing his best golf, and mentally he just seems somewhat down at the moment, and he goes through these peaks and troughs, and we know when he hits the peaks that he can be devastatingly good. But I think what eats at him more than anything else is the fact that he hasn't won a major since the 2014 PGA Championship, and you just wonder mentally whether the capacity is there to get the job done again. And that is really saying something when you know the undoubted physical talents as a golfer that he possesses.
Yeah, gosh, 9 years. That is quite the drought for Rory McIlroy.
That's the point. And if you'd said to anyone back in 2014 that 9 years on he wouldn't have added to his tally of 4 majors, no one would have believed you.
No chance.
And that's just eats at him, I think.
Yeah, good stuff, Ian. Loads more from Ian Carter and the golf team through the weekend on 5 Live and Sports Extra from the PGA Championship. Toulon get ready to celebrate. Glasgow looking despondent. Paul Grayson, before we go off air at 10 o'clock, and we'll be back with Charlie Slater for full time from Barnsley any moment now. A word if people are just joining us about Alan Wynne-Jones and Justin Tipuric, their shock retirements today. Tipuric hit everyone for 6, and Alan Wynne-Jones then hit everyone for 12.
Yeah, amazing. And aside from natural inquisitiveness to find out why today and what's gone on behind the scenes, you just got to pay tribute to Alan Wynne-Jones, an absolute titan of the sport of Welsh rugby. Extraordinary workload, ridiculous amount of caps for the Lions and for Wales. A true great, and Justin Tipuric, one of those players who you would pay to see play in any number of positions. Run like a winger, play like a centre, is a back row, hampered by injury, but an extraordinary player, a huge talent.
And that point we made in commentary as we look at Sergio Parise celebrate for Toulon. He's ending his career with a trophy in this fantastic stadium, but even for someone as decorated as Alan Wynne-Jones, sometimes it doesn't get a script, does it? It doesn't quite end on your shield at a World Cup, winning a World Cup as everyone dreams of.
No, absolutely. It just ends in a that's it, full stop. And maybe the time is absolutely right for him. Maybe one more World Cup effort is just one too far for him. Let's ignore that and just celebrate the extraordinary achievements of the man.
Yeah, Alan Wynne-Jones and Justin Tipuric announcing their retirement from international rugby. Tipuric will play another year for the Ospreys, but for Alan Jones, bar the odd display for the Barbarians, that is the end of the great man in a Wales and Osprey shirt. Back to Charlie Slater at Barnsley.
The 6 minutes are almost up here. Barnsley are on the attack. They've got a 3-on-2 to put the icing on the cake. The effort's gone just wide. The referee's going to look at his watch though, and in any moment now he'll blow his full-time whistle. The Barnsley fans were singing Sheffield Wednesday, we're coming for you. There goes the full-time whistle. Barnsley have won by a goal to nil and 2-1 on aggregate, and they will go to Wembley in 10 days time as the fans rush the pitch. Barnsley are going to Wembley.
Fantastic scenes at Barnsley. Brilliantly done, Charlie. Barnsley, Sheffield Wednesday, League One playoff final. Tomorrow it is all about Leinster and La Rochelle from a rugby union point of view. Back here at the Aviva, we'll have commentary on Radio 5 Sports Extra. 5 Live for your football service as ever on a Saturday. Steve Crossman presenting from midday. Wolves against Everton, our commentary at 3 o'clock. Forest against Arsenal, our commentary at 5:30. Live boxing from here in Dublin with Katie Taylor. What a weekend of sport here in Dublin. That is tomorrow night as well. Toulon are celebrating below us. They've beaten Glasgow by 43 points to 19. Barnsley are going to Wembley, and here on 5 Live we will have the BBC News, and off the other side of the BBC News, Greg Mackenzie take us through the night after the BBC News at 10 o'clock.